Finally, donks.
Look at us now, tip to tip. This is our life. This is our passion.
I'm Luke Thomas. This is Morning Combat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome inside, everyone. Hello, how are you? It is cold where I am. It is cold for about 200 million Americans, if I can be honest, but it is warm right here next to the MK fire. My name is Luke Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me on this 26th day of 2026. We have a lot to get to, a huge focus today on UFC 324. Let me first bring in my co-host for the day. Now, you might be like, wow, Chuck Mindenhall has really altered his appearance in short order.
Way more handsome.
Old Charles got stuck in the winter storm. He's okay, everyone. Don't worry. But we couldn't actually make it for him to do the show with us today as a consequence. So we called in reinforcements from MMAfighting.com. It's our friend and yours, Jed Meshew. Hi, Jed. How are you?
I'm cold, but much better hair than Chuck Mindenhall.
Yeah, well, by virtue of just having some. Yes.
Yeah, I don't have as good of a hat as he does, but happy to step in. I was not anticipating this until yesterday.
Yes,
but it's good. It's a good bookend.
Yeah, neither were we. And then he was like, this ain't going to work. And we're like, all right, we got to figure out what we're going to do here. So Chuck will be back. I guess he might be back Friday, but I suspect he'll be back next Monday. And all's well that ends well. Well, how cold is it in Atlanta, Georgia?
It is currently 24.
That's cold for Atlanta.
I was talking about this with Long Island Luke before we went live. I think this is the coldest I've ever felt Atlanta, because it was 18 when I woke up and the wind chill had it feeling like 5.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've experienced that in my 15 years here. But it hasn't iced much. There's not much precipitation, which we anticipated. So when I got the call yesterday, I was like, I hope I can do it, but they're telling us power's not going to work and everything's shut down. Knock on wood, it is a lovely day other than the temperature.
Yeah. I can count. I mean, I lived in Georgia for how many years? I don't know, from 5th grade 14? To essentially, yeah. So like, not quite 10 years. And I mean, a little more if you count like time home away from college, but I can count on my hands the number of times it reached below 30. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's just an incredibly rare occurrence.
Dude, even when it snows here, it's not like 15. It's like, oh, it snowed and it is 30 or it's 25, but it's pretty cold, man.
We had freezing rain all day yesterday. We got about 6 inches of snow, so it wasn't too bad. But like it's I can't stand it when it freezes and then the sun comes out and then it melts and then just refreezes everything, which is really quite annoying. But our producer got nearly 2 feet up there in central New Jersey, so it could always be worse. But we have a lot to get to. Yeah, we have a lot to get to today. UFC 324. So many different elements of this story to talk about, from the event itself to the individual fights, really what it means for MMA, as well as this new partnership. We're going to get to every element of that. Thumbs up if you're watching, of course, on YouTube. If you're listening on an audio device or an audio podcast, consider giving us a nice review. You can see our socials are here for Morning Combat, me, as well as Jed Meshew, who's available on X and IG. Not to forget, we also still have merch, morningcombat.shop. Yes, the posters are sold out. We're going to get those to you in short order. But, of course, we still have some of these 2 shirts with a Stranger Danger design, exclusive until January 31st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before we get going to our topics, let's bring in the third member of the show. It's Long Island Luke. Now, Long Island, what did you get out there? About a foot of snow up there in the
area? Up there in the Long Island parts? Yeah, we got about a foot of snow. Not bad. Shoveled it out last night. Good to go today,
Let me ask a question, because I'm not a snow shoveling aficionado by a stretch of the imagination. What is the rule? Do you pre-treat the concrete before you shovel, or do you just wait till it's done and then you go shovel it?
I mean, I have a gravel driveway, so there ain't no pre-treating anything, but I just fucking shovel it, dude. The hardest part is the gravel. Half the time I'm picking up rocks with the snow, so I kind of just put it near the side of the driveway, and then as it melts, in the spring, I'm constantly picking out rocks out of my lawn and just throwing them back in the driveway. But,
I see.
It is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. Fights this weekend, though. Pretty hyped. Also, we're not going to preview it today. We're going to preview it on Friday, but we got another pay-per-view this weekend in Australia. Looking forward to that. So.
Yeah, that's right. Is your dad going to watch now that there's no paywall?
He doesn't have Paramount. I could give him my log. I'm gonna say no, because unless it was on like Netflix, probably not. Yeah, no.
Yeah, fair enough. Before we get started, Jed, one quick question. One of the things that we often do, and I'm sure you've done it as well, is kind of use how many people in your non-MMA orbit all of a sudden.
Mom test.
Yes, all of a sudden, randomly, you get a text being like, hey, what's up with the fight this weekend? This happens, unfortunately, but it is true. This happens quite repeatedly when Jake Paul fights. I get a lot of text messages from folks who ordinarily never contact me about this stuff. How many did you either get to before, during, or after 324?
Before, I mean, it was a bunch before. And so like me and Mike Heck at MMA Fighting have the scale of the mom test. We're like, if my mom is texting me, that's when I know something has reached a criticality, right? Because my mom doesn't give a shit about this. But like my friends have a lower bar and they'll pop in occasionally for the biggest fights. And basically all of them were hitting me up about it because it was on Paramount. They had been watching football. There were ads for it. And the biggest factor, which maybe I knew intrinsically, but I didn't really totally understand until this past weekend, is they all knew Paddy. Every one of them was texting about Paddy. It was not, oh, the UFC's on Paramount. It's like, oh, Paddy Pimblett. And almost exclusively it was, yeah, I thought he's the Barstool guy. They knew him from Barstool. And many of them were like, doesn't he suck? Like, how is he fighting for a title? I thought he was at Barstool, but not very good. And then I had to explain to them, like, he's kind of okay and whatever. But basically all of my friends, my various friend groups at least reached out and were like, hey, what's going on? I got a lot on fight day. When is the main event? Because they didn't want to watch the rest of that shit, but they're like, when is Paddy walking?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had not a whole bunch, not as much as a Jake Paul fight, but I definitely had a few friends reach out who ordinarily never ask, and that again is kind of always the spidey sense that you get about 324.
Something's big.
With that in mind, let's kick things off. Topic number one. So let's start with the main event. Now we're going to get to, as I mentioned, how we feel about all the ads on the broadcast and some other factors that you saw related to just what was watching the event like. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Let's actually start with the fights themselves. Justin Gaethje becomes a two-time interim UFC lightweight champion in what I would call a pretty one-sided bout. You could make an argument for Paddy, certainly to win round 3. Maybe you could put in there round 5 as well. He definitely showed some durability. We're going to get to that as well. But let's focus on Justin Gaethje if we can here, Jed. My first question to you would be, he wins by unanimous decision, 49-46 on 2 of the judges' scorecards, 48-47 on just 1. The bout was largely entertaining. However, I do think it'd be fair to say a little bit sloppy. Certainly folks were vocalizing some concerns in that direction. Nevertheless, most people felt it was pretty entertaining, me included. Your biggest takeaway, though, from the 5-round battle is what?
Oh, I've got 2. I'm trying to figure out what is the actual biggest, because that's how words work. I'm going to go with my biggest takeaway is that they did it. The UFC got what they wanted, right? Like, this is out of all the hullabaloo, all the talk, all the hand-wringing and pearl clutching, and Arman Sarukian deserves to be fighting here, and this one actually blah, blah, blah. None of that's wrong. But Justin Gaethje laid it out at the first presser. It was like, the reason I'm in this position is I am the most exciting fighter who's ever lived. That dude's pretty exciting too. And this is the first pay-per-view on Paramount. They want to put their best foot forward, and I am that best foot. And yeah, man, they did. Like, that's a safe bet, but it still paid off, because we'll talk about the rest of the cards you said kind of sucked. And if the main event had been something different, if the main event had been Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes and that fight hadn't fallen apart, that fight can be boring. That fight could have looked like some of the other high level, not that entertaining fights, because Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje was the main event. Even if the rest of that card sucked. And like I said, a lot of my friends didn't tune in for the rest. They tuned in for the main event. Your first experience on Paramount Plus, the biggest thing, the thing you take away the most is that rocked. that ripped the shit, man. And you've got Israel Adesanya coming out and saying that is, this generation's Bonner Griffin. I think that's probably not true, but there's a kernel of truth there. The UFC wanted this. They bet on it and they got paid off, because even if the rest of this card was weak, main event slapped.
There's no denying. I largely agree with that. I think the one setback, and because the UFC is playing with house money because they control both fighters, right? Again, it's not rival promoters coming together to make a card. So they, in some sense, they win either way. It does probably, it's not great, honestly, for the UFC's future prospects that Paddy didn't deliver here. Now they can't make him do that. And I understand what everyone's going to say is like they gave him every opportunity to be ready for this moment. No question about it. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm simply saying, would it be better for their long-term prospects for a guy at 31 to do well versus a guy at 37, kind of almost going to be 38 on his way out the door? The answer is obviously. To that point, though, this is where I totally agree with your analysis here, which is that this was an event when it was over that you were like, okay, so clearly more than normal, they were making a play for the casual fan. Casual fan's always going to be a dominant factor in both matchmaking and event location and every other factor that goes into how they make money. But it was dialed up here, it seems to me, a little bit more, because we're going to talk about this. You could make a case that you watch the fifth and the sixth best guy at lightweight at best case scenario, on Saturday. However, the fight delivered, I think, not so much for the hardcore fan because of the nature of the sloppiness, but the nature of the back and forth. It was bloody. Gaethje was able to affect change. Paddy had a couple of rallies in that third, and again, kind of in that fifth as well. Like, if what you care about is drama in a fight and action in a fight, and you're not too concerned about whether this guy is number one versus number two, just are they good enough, and is this fight entertaining enough, and are you appealing to crowds where that's really just the dominant factor? I don't know how this didn't deliver. I don't know how it didn't deliver, and anecdotally it appears that it did. Now the question, though, is related to this: how do you feel like the UFC is feeling about Gaethje, about what utility is there now that they have to do something with this interim championship?
They're feeling great. Look, if you were a hardcore fan and didn't care about that fight, maybe this is you, Luke. And so I hope you'll invite me back after this.
Jose, I want to be clear. It was funny. I actually enjoyed the fight. I mean, again, I thought it was sloppy in parts. I think we all do.
It is.
And then, but I got off YouTube, and then I get on Twitter, and everyone was fucking killing it on my timeline, and I'm like, I didn't hate that.
Allow joy into your lives, you pretentious douchebag.
So not me. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I really did.
It was super fun. Like, that's if you watch that fight and your takeaway is these aren't the best lightweights in the world, this is lame. Like, no shit. Nobody thought they were coming into this. Like, allow things to be fun. Embrace it, because we've got like maybe 3 Justin Gaethje fights left. He's the most exciting fighter ever. That was fun as hell. And I think the UFC doesn't care, right? Like, we talked in the pregame preview that this is not a win-win, right? They would have preferred that Pimblett got over here, but I think this ended up just fine for them, because Pimblett did kind of get over. He lost to Gaethje, but nobody left that fight being like, well, not nobody. Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan are haters all the way through. But most people left that were like, man, Paddy Pimblett's tough as shit. Like, that's good on him. And so he got elevated a little bit. But the reality is, like, if he beat Gaethje, it is not like Paddy Pimblett is the future lightweight champion, because Ilia Topuria would spark his ass too. So it's just like, they would have preferred it, but it's totally fine for Ilia to get to fight Gaethje and have the most exciting fighter alive fight maybe the best fighter alive and kill him. You know, there are some downstream effects of like, when is Ilia Topuria going to fight a dude in the prime of his career? That would be nice, but that doesn't matter for them. I think mostly they're A-okay with this, because Justin Gaethje is very popular in general. He's not as popular as Paddy, and they can absolutely put this on the White House with an American champion if they'd like to, though maybe you don't want to see the lone American champion get sparked, because that's seems pretty likely to be what happens when they do face off.
Let's talk about the fight. All right. So I thought I am too willing to bury the unks, which affected my pick on Friday, because I was like, I thought that Gaethje was going to land on him, which he sure did.
Sure did.
And I thought that what was going to happen was what you got in the first round, that Paddy was going to get his shit rocked and then maybe start to rally. And then when he rallied a little bit in the third, I was like, all right, well, maybe something's going to happen here. And then Gaethje closed that fucking door pretty quickly in the fourth. But I have to say, what did you make of Paddy's game plan? Because I want to tell you what I feel. I see a lot of people saying, oh, why didn't he go for more takedowns? And if you look at the number, Jed, it's a 5 in total he attempted. He got none of them. 1 in the first he attempted, 1 in the fourth, and then 3 in the fifth. And they all whiffed, obviously. Here's the problem for me, though. If you actually look at the number of takedowns, Paddy in UFC overall, now including this bout, is 4 for 18 lifetime in UFC takedown attempts. 4 for 18. The guy
those are Mackenzie Dern numbers, right?
Those are Mackenzie Dern numbers. And in fact, if you look at the 4 takedowns he has, one of them is real slick. It's a Harai Goshi he had, I think, in the Jordan Levitt fight. But most of them come from someone else establishing contact and then him hitting a switch or finding some kind of back take to, a mat return, which will count as a takedown. Typically that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from being far away, shooting, and then getting a takedown. So I'm not going to say he couldn't have done it more. Here's my takeaway from this bout, Jed, and I'd love to know if you agree. What was interesting to me about this is both on the feet and on the ground, at least in so much as the wrestling is concerned, not the actual, he had mount or something. What's interesting to me is Gaethje actually had to face Paddy's best stuff. Paddy gave him basically everything he had, and it wasn't even close to enough. On the feet, he was landing his best weapons, the uppercut hook that he likes, a lot of those front leg attacks, whether he's going to the leg, to the body, or to the head, the jumping switch knees that he tries, the switch stance blitzes off of the back, and all of them to one degree or another, Jed, they all kind of landed. I just mentioned the takedown component. Could there have been a little bit more? Sure, but in the 5th round, he had double underhooks, tried for 2 takedowns on an outside trip as well as against the fence, and Gaethje had a better idea about how to defend it than Chandler ever did. To me, the story of the fight is Paddy showed every card he had, and he still got wiped out. There is something to be said about Gaethje's resilience with all the damage he's had that made that possible.
Yeah, man. I got a lot of thoughts here.
Okay.
I gave you my biggest thought. My second biggest thought, right under the one I gave you that first section, was I think people just are doomed to underestimate Justin Gaethje, the fighter, right? Like everyone kind of agrees, or most people agree he's the most exciting fighter alive and probably ever. But like that underrates how good of a fighter he is, what he has accomplished over his career, the fact that he has been able to go through multiple different generations of fighters and still be near the top of the game. The fact that he basically did like a hard style switch midway through his career, which is very rare and very difficult thing to do. And the fact that I do agree in large part with what you said, like that he came in very prepared. He faced most of Paddy's best shit and it was fine. I do think there is a little bit also to some criticism of Paddy here, because I thought Paddy had good tactics and some bad strategy, frankly. And we talked about it in the pregame preview, where there are a lot of things that Paddy can do, and he did all those things. He did the uppercut. He was kicking at range, had a lot of stepping knees, and a lot of just like attacks down the middle, which is pretty good against Gaethje, who in general ducks his head a lot and is kind of there to be hit on those. The biggest issue I think Paddy had, he should have shot more takedowns, but I'm with you, that largely wouldn't have worked. The problem is he just kept backing up. And if he needed to be putting Gaethje on the back foot, like you go watch how Justin Gaethje loses, it's he's getting backed up, right? And instead, Paddy was against the fence the whole time. And I don't know how much of that was just because he got jawed pretty early and that sort of sent him into fight or flight mode. But every time he had success, he was the one advancing. And most of the fight, he just simply wasn't doing that. And if you told me he was going to be on the back foot all fight, I would have been like, it's going to look exactly like that, except I would have thought Gaethje would have gotten him out of there. But yeah, man, Justin Gaethje's he's so much better of a fighter than people recognize, because he's got a little bozo to him, and people underrate the bozoness and its efficacy. But like, dude, that crackdown that he was rocking with, the front headlock series thing, like that just completely neutered Paddy's ability to get in transition. Because you're right, Paddy gets his takedowns in scrambles, and Justin was just like, all right, I'll hold this. You can't do anything from here until I decide we're done. He had a lot of good a lot of good little tactical things, and he's just a better fighter than Paddy Pimblett, man.
He's a significantly better fighter. I'm so glad you brought that up because if you look at the takedown that Paddy got on Chandler, he goes for a single leg, and then Chandler tries to turn and bail and get away, and then allows Paddy to hold the leg and then follow and get the body lock, which he then hit a mat return on, and then he took the back. Right, so there was the beginning of the end was set up from that moment, whereas Gaethje was like, no. Down blocking, underhooking, hard sprawling, right? Not even going to let you get, I'm not even going to let you get close to wrapping me up in any capacity. And to the extent we are wrapped up, it's going to be on my terms, not yours. I totally agree. On the backing up part, dude, the tape has been clear on this. And this part was not surprising. I was like, I knew he was going to get backed up by Gaethje, in part because Gaethje had said, this is about champions moving forward. And also, Paddy's got a little Tyron Woodley in him where the fight starts and he just backs her up right away. And then sometimes he makes it work and sometimes he, in this case, doesn't. But I was like, all right, well, what weapons is he going to use to keep Gaethje at range? And, some of that worked, but not nearly enough, obviously. What's interesting to me is, dude, he landed on Gaethje a lot and it didn't really do shit.
Statistically landed more strikes than Gaethje did. Actually.
He did. And in aggregate too. It's like, bro, you gave Gaethje not just all the weapons, like the different kinds of weapons, but like it wasn't like Gaethje had to some of them were blocked. Much of that landed clean, and it didn't do fuck all to him. And it's like, do we have to have a conversation about whether Paddy's obviously got some stoppage wins via strikes? His UFC debut, for example, came that way, and he was beating the shit out of Michael Chandler. I'm not saying he can't hurt people, but Gaethje is still pretty tough. There is a question about what kind of pop he has, right?
I mean, he obviously does not have like natural power. That is not part of him. But like
the mechanics on some of those punches, it looked like he was trying to stab him with overhand stab.
You're never going to get, like, if you don't naturally have power and your mechanics are bad, it's going to be super, like, this is all working against you. But like, also, when he beat the shit out of Michael Chandler, he can hit, like, he's a big dude. He's strong enough. The difference is he's beating the shit out of Michael Chandler from a dominant position where he has leverage. And I never thought if he is strictly backing up, it's just way harder to hit somebody hard when your back is against the fence, when the space is taken away from you. And Justin Gaethje also, maybe he hurt Justin at points. I do think one of the fascinating parts of Justin Gaethje's like oeuvre in general, it's really hard for me to know when he's hurt because he's so wobbly. Like in general, he's sort of constantly, he's got a little bit of that DDP where like, okay, he's breathing heavy, but that doesn't mean he's tired. That's just how he works in life. And so maybe he hurt him at a few points in time, but like, yeah, he has to either get better at striking, which seems like boxing, not striking, because he's added good kicks, which seems like a tall order at 31 years old. The cake sort of feels baked, or he needs to shift up like thematically how he's going about it, because he's never going to hurt people like that.
Let's take a look at this picture of Paddy's face. This is what he looked like at the end of the fight. I tell you what, I did learn this. Paddy's got a fucking chin, bro. I mean, whatever else you want to say about him, Gaethje was landing on this fool, and he, I was amazed at how well he was able to take the punches, relatively speaking.
Dude, it is not just that he's landing on this fool. Shout out to Jack Slack, who pointed this out on his post podcast or whatever. Justin Gaethje was landing shots against and Justin Gaethje, one of the harder hitters of this weight class like ever, right? Just this pure power. Maybe he's a little older. Maybe he had staff. Like maybe he didn't have as much pop, but he was not just hitting Paddy clean. He was hitting Paddy clean when Paddy's like on one foot and like not in a good position to take the strikes. And he is just like wearing it. And yeah, Paddy got dropped. They credited Gaethje with 2 knockdowns, which I think is ludicrous. Like I think he dropped him like 5 times.
Yeah.
But like the fact that he was able to just work through like getting jawed in the most awkward positions, hell of a chin, man. Like you cannot question the man's durability and heart.
Last thing on Paddy for just a moment. Do you, to me, I'm not in any way saying it's the same as the 5-round beating, basically that Gaethje put on Tony Ferguson. I'm not saying it's the same. It's not. The damage was not as much. That was a especially brutal beating. However, do you worry about the amount of damage Paddy took in this fight in terms of his chances? Maybe not all the way for his long term, but for his next fight.
No, I will say because I have the stats up. I've been kind of looking at them this morning. Gaethje landed one more significant strike per UFC stats against Paddy than he did against Tony. Of course, he didn't get any knockdowns against Tony. So statistically, it was a worse beating, but I'm with you. That he ended Tony Ferguson's career, which is pretty tough. I'm not that concerned about Paddy because Paddy, I think, is still young enough where you can take a beating, but historically fighting Justin Gaethje has been bad for your long-term health in this sport. And so it is something to look at moving forward. I'm not sure though that we'll know, right? Because of the unique Paddy Pimblettness of this all. Because if he goes out and he fights, let's say Charles Oliveira loses to Max Holloway, Paddy fights Charles, and Charles beats him, we're not going to be like, oh, his chin is cracked. He can't. It's like, yeah, Paddy's not very good. Will be, I think, the dominant storyline, but it is something to watch out for because, like, you don't have that many of those in you, man. Like there's just not that many people can take that sort of a beating that many times. That's really the first one that I'm clocking for Paddy, but he took a lot of damage, bro.
What does it mean that Gaethje is a 2-time interim champion?
I think it's awesome, frankly. It doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean the world, but like he is in my estimation, the most accomplished UFC fighter of all time to never win an undisputed belt because he's a 2-time interim champion, even if this one is way more suspect than the first one was, right? BMF champion. And like, there's an argument that not that he would be the best lightweight in the world, but that Ilia Topuria should not currently have a belt right now. And so like it could be an undisputed title. He wouldn't be the best lightweight in the world, but he could have it. And so I think it feels very appropriate for a fighter like Justin Gaethje, who's maybe never been the best guy in the world, but he has been right there for a very long time to add another, trophy to the case.
I have struggled with this one. I'm not sure what it means. Pardon me. Again, in part because Justin faced both Max and Charles Oliveira and got smoked by both of them, and it's like now he's holding an interim title. What does it mean to be a 2-time interim champion? I'm not really sure because it's not really a number one. I mean, it ends up being a number one contender fight as a consequence, but it's not really a number one contenders fight. So I have a little bit of difficulty with it, but it did remind me, and I said this on Saturday night, and again, people poo-pooing this performance. Justin didn't look to me like, of course, prime Justin. You could definitely see that there was a little bit of a slowing down. At the same time, people were like, oh, he's washed. I don't think he's actually fully washed. I don't really believe that. And more to the point, the fact that a guy like this, after all the miles he's been put on him, after all even in fights where he's won, or he's had his fucking brain rattled, and then to still be out here and then dunking on what the best 31-year-old that basically the division has to offer just kind of speaks to this generation of lightweights, him, the Poiriers, the Habibs, the Connors for a moment anyway, and the RDAs and the Tony Fergusons, like that class. I honestly, I really, as good as there are some other lightweights out there, I really think that this class is not going to be replaced anytime soon, if ever. It was very, very special. And you're looking at one of the last kind of horsemen of that movement, still doing some, to me, pretty interesting and really capable stuff.
Dude, I remember when you first pitched that, whatever, it was like, look at these fucking old war horses still just turning back. And I was like, 3 years later, it's like, yeah, Gaethje beat Rafael Fiziev, who's supposed to be the future. He just beat Paddy, who's supposed to be the future. Like, it's just like, okay, it's incredible, like what this little class of badasses has done. And I'm really happy to have like not just lived through it, but like this has been the prime of my fandom in a lot of ways. Like to have been fully not like, oh, this happened when I was just learning about MMA. It's like, oh, I know this, and it rocks, man.
Let's get to the people who we've been kind of dancing around this whole time, which is who I think are the two best lightweights in the world. Let's start with, you know what? Let's start with the champion himself. Here's a tweet from Ilia Topuria I'm guessing to Paddy, obviously, quote, "Hey, little sausage. The only thing you had to do was beat a 38-year-old guy." By the way, you can just, if you say that in Topuria's voice, all you had to do was just beat a 38, he's like, you're comparing him to like any guy off the street who happens to be 38. Like the disdain with which he is treating Gaethje is remarkable. He says, "You just lost the biggest paycheck of your life. You were going to get rich if you won. Justin, all I can say is congratulations. And I'd like to tell you to get ready, but you're screwed no matter what." I got to tell you, Ilia Topuria from the top rope. I love this message.
I'm A-okay. I have a lot of issues with basically everything Ilia Topuria has said over the last 2 years. Not this one. Like, this is exactly right. Like, you got beef with that dude and you can dunk on that dude. Like, that is A-okay thing to do. You know, I do think he also lost the biggest payday of his life. I think it's better for his career if he beats Paddy than Gaethje. But like, I totally understand dunking on him right now. And yeah, I mean, the most likely outcome is that he blows the doors off Justin Gaethje. So.
I think Topuria. Well, okay, let's be clear about this. And I said this a long time ago when people were like, "Oh, what about Paddy versus Ilia?" And I was like, brother, I mean, if you wanted to end Paddy's career, you set him up with Ilia. Ilia would turn him into ash. You know what I mean? I mean, just absolutely Medusa him, turn him into fucking stone with what he would do. I think Gaethje would be a little bit more competitive and would certainly put up more of a fight, but I don't think his chances are great either, which then brings us to a more interesting consideration, namely, what about Arman Tsarukyan, the kind of odd man out here who, one way or the other, probably should have been in this bout. He had something to say as well. Here's his tweet, quote, "That's what happens when you're gifted opportunities and pushed up the rankings artificially. A completely undeserved title shot for Paddy. Congratulations to Justin. He showed real heart, and unlike others, he'll step up and take the fight with me. Respect." So what do you make of this? It is obvious that these two guys are the best lightweights in the world. But in terms of how you feel like their stock or their appearance or their value shakes out, sort it for me.
Dude, I just put it in our private chat. One of my favorite photos of the evening. It is Arman Tsarukyan immediately after the main event.
Yeah.
Look at how mad this fucking dude is. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a dude more bitter about what just has, like, you can see the thought in his head of like, I would fucking kill these dudes. I would put them both back to back, and I would finish them inside of 5. He's furious about what is going on here. And it sucks for him, man. I think he's the best lightweight on earth. He's certainly the lightweight on earth who has done the most, right? Like, he has consistently been beating top opposition. Ilia has one sensational win, but he's got one win at lightweight. And yeah, under any normal circumstances, he would have gone in there. He would have fought. I would bet almost anything in the world that he would have beaten either man. And now he, like, hopefully, best case scenario, gets to fight for the title at the end of this year. But Long Island Luke, maybe you can confirm this, or either of you, if you remember. I think I recall Dana saying Arman's going to have to fight again at the post presser, which, like, he'll beat whoever he fights. But bro, that sucks. Like, it's just, he's done more than enough to get his day in court. And I think he's the best lightweight on earth, and he might not get to prove that until next year. And he may never get to fight Ilia, because I do not think Ilia Topuria is trying to fight this man at all. And so even if he does, there will be people who will be like, well, you're the best of the rest because Ilia's not here.
DK early odds. Our friends here at DraftKings, Topuria minus 455, Gaethje plus 350. In Gaethje's defense, he was the underdog from a betting standpoint heading into this one. So I know some folks made some good money with this one. This one, however, I mean, again, I cannot respect what Gaethje has done, that generation of lightweights have done, but dude, Topuria is gonna fucking smash him. How would a Gaethje versus? I will tell you, a Gaethje Arman fight is interesting to me, because Gaethje would at least put up some resistance on the takedown, right? I mean, I think eventually Arman would get it, but the question is what kind of tax he's gonna have to pay before that happens. To me, Topuria versus Gaethje is less interesting, because I think eventually Topuria is just going to electrocute him. But the Arman one, to me, he's going to have to work for it. And for that reason, I kind of like that scrap a little bit more.
I mean, by the smallest of margins, do I think it's more competitive?
Really?
Yeah, like Armin will just Habib Gaethje, and like he will just make Gaethje walk backwards constantly and try and circle, and eventually he'll get it. And like once we were all confident that if Paddy got Gaethje down, it was curtains. I'm like this is the difference between Armin and Paddy is significant, and Armin can wrestle his ass off. Go ask Lance Palmer. So
Yeah, but
like,
he's got no subs. Oh, okay, let me back.
he
that
doesn't
up.
need subs. He'll get on top and beat the shit.
I know he subbed Dan Hooker. Okay,
Yeah.
Armin did, but in general, I'm not convinced that like, oh, he gets the back. He's some kind of threat from there. I'm less convinced by that.
I'm pretty convinced that he would
Really?
dummy Gaethje once it got to the floor. I do think Gaethje will make it harder to get to the floor. But like maybe it is the homer in me. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe that Ilia Topuria, like logically, is going to beat Justin Gaethje. I was incredibly confident that Rafael Fiziev would just be a better striker than Justin Gaethje, and they have fought for 30 minutes, and mostly Gaethje's tuned him up. Gaethje has tools on the feet, and the gap there, I think, is the athleticism, the age is certainly enough. But like, I at least have some level of interest in seeing how that shakes out, because Gaethje has historically proven me wrong, specifically with fights. And, you know, this is a million years old and you shouldn't put too much stock into it. But if Jai Herbert can buzz you, I strongly suspect Justin Gaethje at least has the potential to do that. So I don't think either fight is competitive realistically, like logical brain Jed, but Lizard Jed thinks that Gaethje has a better chance against Topuria than it does against Armin.
With that in mind, let's now move to the co-main event, topic number 2. So he had to work for it here a little bit, but he got it done. Sean O'Malley wins a unanimous decision, defeating Song Yadong. Now, he started out with a decent first round. Song Yadong looked like he might have been mounting what was going to be a winning performance by the end of that second. But to me, the interesting factor here is the way in which O'Malley rescued himself in the third. With that in mind, is the story of the fight, Jed, that O'Malley did rally in that third and had the best round of the three of any of the rounds that either of them had in an impressive showing, or did the fact that he had to rally in the third show that he's declined?
I don't think Sean O'Malley has declined. I don't really think the story is either like, oh, look, Sean rallied, so much as my big takeaway in this fight was, oh, Sean he was slow to start. Maybe that's because he's been doing 5-rounders so much, because once he got up to speed, like once he got going, it was like, oh, that's exactly the Sean O'Malley I anticipated. It just, he didn't get going for a while. And I think the most logical explanation is like, okay, he came in a little cold because he's not used, like he just hasn't done this in a while. And to some extent also, Song Yadong came out hot. Like he knew he needed to set a tone early. He tried. He doesn't have that many tools, so that's pretty tough for Song. But like he made it a fight early, and then Sean finally just, you know, sometimes it takes a little while to get the engine going, Luke. You know, once he did.
No, but see, here's why. No, okay. But the thing is, if I hadn't seen Tim Welch be like apoplectic in the fucking corner between the second and third, and he wasn't like shouting him down, but he was like, yo, like, you got to go. This is the moment, you know, fast. You got to be long. You got to be quick. You got to be first. Best 5 minutes. Let's go. Like, he was really trying to, I'm not putting it on par with between the 4th and 5th round of the Kamaru Usman Leon Edwards rematch. Like, you know, you got to go, kid. But I am saying that, like, they were trying to jolt this dude back to being awake. And I can buy that the 3 rounds down from the 5 rounds, you know, clearly can be an adjustment for him. But I don't know, man. I'm a little bit of the belief that, like, 2 losses in a row, he's been kind of talking, I'm not saying in a non-committal way about his career, but we talked about the big opportunity, but he's been a little bit like lost in the sauce about what this all kind of means. I think he was feeling a little bit. I think it took him a while to not just get going, obviously, but to kind of recognize, like he even said, for example, right? He even said, I thought he was going to be way, way faster. I think he had built up in his mind the difficulty of the moment to a little bit and was a little bit feeling it. And it was only after he kind of calmed down that he was able to let, you know, and then he got a coach in his ear to kind of get going. I'm not, to me, like the 5-3 round thing, I absolutely think is a factor, but I'm not sure if it's the dominant one.
Yeah, I mean, and that could totally be it, because this was, he probably had the most pressure of any fighter on him, just because like with the win, and we'll talk about that in a second, maybe he's fighting for a belt. With the loss, his career is in full blown free fall at that point in time. Like, and so maybe that's it. Maybe he just felt a little bit of the pressure, but he's never been like a super fast starter anyway. The first round, kind of made sense. The second round was when I was like, oh, Sean O'Malley might be losing. And then he just fought normally in the third round and he tuned him up. So I don't know it's hard for me to draw like major conclusions about anything other than like Sean O'Malley is still one of the 5 best dudes in this weight class. And Song Yadong seems to have a very clearly defined ceiling.
Let's talk about Song Yadong for a second. We'll circle back to Sean O'Malley, but you brought it up and I really wanted to get to it. Here's a guy who they keep calling him up to the majors, and then he can't close the show on the hill. You know what I mean? They bring him up to fight Sandhagen, doesn't go his way. I know he does have a win over Cejudo, but we all know that there was obviously a fair amount of controversy related to how that one ended, and they call him up here. And there's been some other ones too. He does have the win over Marlon Vera, but that was from a long time ago. Like, he obviously is good. He is still young. As you indicated in that first round, the power and like the thudding nature of what he was throwing, he was trying to set a physical tone. He can do stuff. But Jed, why can't he seem to graduate to the next level?
Dude, I think the answer is he doesn't have that many tools, right? Like he just doesn't, there's not a depth to his game. Correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but like he's mostly doing the same stuff and he's very athletic. His hands are quite fast. And he can do a little bit of everything, but he doesn't have any superpower to rely on. He doesn't have a weapon or two to build a game around. And so he just kind of can't get it, because it's not just that he has been given steps up to the majors. He has 3 times been called up to the big leagues on the best terms possible, guys on big losing streaks. And he has not pulled it off in any of them. He's still only 28. So like, hard to say he's never going to get there, but like, how many bites at the apple do you get before it's just like, this is who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're a top 10 guy. You're not a top 5 guy.
I unfortunately agree. Like, if you just compare him to, like, again, and you could say, oh, well, this is the best guy in the division. Fine. But that's a good benchmark. What does it look like when you're really good? Take someone like Petr Yan. Think about all the things that fucking guy can do. The takedowns, the scrambling. He doesn't have the most significant submission threat, but I bet that's better than we think too. And then on the feet, the number of tools and how he blends it all together. And then you look at Song Yadong, and it's like, obviously he can do stuff, but it's just a very diet version of that. Like, even if he had won this fight, they were like really hyped behind getting a Chinese guy in a title fight, which again, as part of matchmaking, if you would be able to surf that opportunity, dude, Yan would fucking wash this guy. He can do vastly more. He can take the fight to places that Song has simply no way to follow. And so it's like, I want for him to turn that corner, and I'm not ready to rule it out. But unless he skill builds in some kind of way more than just like defensively, I don't know what to say. This is a sport, man. We're going to talk about some other fighters on this card where this is going to be relevant. Everyone knows offense is more important than defense, but in MMA, it's like, dude, it's a lot more important. I mean, if you don't have good defense, you also won't win a title, but you need to make sure you can do a bunch of stuff. And have an ace in the hole too. It's a tough business. But I just don't feel like, what's Song's calling card? He's got a huge punch. He's athletic. He's got pretty good takedown defense for the most part.
This is going to be mean, and I'm okay with that. If I was a fighter of talent and means, and I'm not, if you can't look at this and understand that that's not correct, I don't know what to tell you. If I was somebody still young with a future in this sport, I don't know what would get me there, but I just would never go to Team Alpha Male. That's a little strong. I mean, they are better than many gyms, but if you're trying to ascend, like who's the fighter that is like Cody Garbrandt is the best fighter Team Alpha Male has produced, not Dwayne Ludwig, right? Like, and do you want to be where Cody's current career is? Like, I don't think he trains there anymore, but like, how is he going to get those tools when nobody at Team Alpha Male has like like superior tools. The one trick they had is guillotines, and that doesn't seem to be a case like happening anymore. Like if I was in Yadong's corner, I'm sure they are nice and they are a professional team, but like, man, you got to go somewhere else to get something going because this just isn't working. He's not developing. He's the same dude, and that dude is good. It's a top 10 dude. But if you have title aspirations, I don't think that's the place you're going to get him over the hump.
So thinking about what's next for Sean O'Malley, what do you think the UFC is going to do? There have been basically two different directions that have been proposed. One is you could at this point give him a title shot. Again, I didn't think the fight was bad by any stretch. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a scintillating performance until the end of the third, but otherwise a competent one and certainly a deserving one for advancement. Could you go the title shot route? You could. That's one direction. The other one that I keep seeing pop up is about versus Corey Sandhagen. Could be on the White House, could be somewhere else. For Jed, if you get to play matchmaker for a day, how do you sort the top of this division? Merab's waiting in the wings. We'll talk about Umar a little bit later. And now you've got Sean O'Malley. What do you do?
Dude, if I get to sort, we're going to have the most fun. I don't think this is what will happen, but like looking at that fight, I think Sean O'Malley did a miracle on Saturday, which is he was 95% to fight for the bantamweight title. And I think that performance was the 5%. Oh, actually, never mind. We're just going to do Merab and Piotr again. He's going to have to fight again. I think they'll go Sandhagen, but if I'm in charge, this is the easiest thing in the world. Hey, when Merab and Piotr Jan fight for the belt on whatever card that's going to be, the feature bout or the 5-round co-main, 5 rounds for sure, Sean O'Malley versus Umar Nurmagomedov, stone cold title eliminator, no questions asked. Do it. It is it is off-brand, great value, discount version of Conor Habib, and the winner, like, honestly, coming off that fight, Sean can maybe even feel like he can beat Umar. Not his fight, coming off Umar's fight. And if Umar gets it, then Umar's fighting again. Like that, this seems like the obvious answer that they will not in any way do.
Long Island Luke has a theory on this. What is your theory about which way they'll go?
Well, like Jed just said, they're not going to put Sean against Umar, even though that's meritocratically, whatever the fucking word is.
Meritocratically,
what you should do. I think they're going to do O'Malley Jan 2. I'm even thinking possibly at the White House. And then I think just on a random fight night, you do Merab Umar 2. Winner of that is the rightful number one contender.
Bro, are they really going to do
Dude,
that to
you
Merab?
Can't do that.
It would be fucked up. And I love Merab. I'm not saying I don't want this to happen. I feel like that's how the UFC is going to go. It's just my theory.
I don't know, man.
I can't believe they would make Merab fight Umar.
I mean, I don't hate the fight as such, but I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh, if you lose convincingly, you should get a rematch. But I'll make an exception in this case, given what Merab has done.
I think our immediate rematches are awful and should never happen. The two caveats being stone cold robbery and like it has to be stone cold. It can't be competitive. And the other is trilogy fight. They split the two. 100%. You should run that a third time. There's no doubt in my mind that's what should happen. I do think that is likely to happen now. And if that's going to happen, like, why have Sean fight Corey? And then if Corey wins, then I guess you're just defaulting it to Umar. And if Sean wins, he gets it. And then Umar's just in arm in limbo. Like, just have those two dudes fight. Sean can beat Umar. I don't think he will, but he can beat him. Have him fight him. Nobody thought he beat Piotr Jan, and he did.
Yeah, I will say this, though, just getting back to Sean O'Malley as we wrap up on this topic here. To me, what was interesting was there was a nice crowd pop for Sean O'Malley. I think he did enough of a job, as we talked about, for advancement. He did what he was supposed to do. I do think, though, that the Paramount story, as well as the particulars of the main event, have definitely drowned out a little bit. It's not like he's made a huge impact with the Song Yadong win. Would you agree with that? Like, there's most of the focus is just main event and then UFC Paramount as a storyline itself.
Yeah, he was. He wasn't supposed to be in the co-main event anyway, and it does feel like it's just being treated as the feature bout, which is where it was originally, because the performance wasn't great. Like it was perfectly fine, professional. Some people scored that fight for Song. I didn't, but I think it's not like the biggest robbery to give Song 1 and 2 there. And so, like, that's just one of those fights that happens and that we don't talk about or care that much about moving forward. And maybe that's better for Sean O'Malley because he can just, he said afterwards, I'll just wait. I'll wait for the title shot. And historically, that's kind of a bad idea, but lately it's not. And especially if you're a guy that they like and want to give opportunities to, maybe if everyone just forgets about this and you sit out for a while, you get it. And certainly 100%, I think we could both agree on this, Luke. If something happens, if Merab gets injured, then Sean's just in, and there's no question asked about it.
Yes, if Merab retired today, this would be a much more easy conversation to parse. I will say this. I had my notes up here, and I wanted to make a point, and then I forgot what I was going to say. Let me remind you. For me, we talk about some of the best fights that can be made in MMA within a weight class. So, like who Islam would fight at 70, a natural 70, or as we've talked about at 55. Topuria and Saryukin. One of the more interesting, I'm not saying it's the best fight at 35 necessarily. What I am saying is it will be a crime if Sandhagen and O'Malley don't fight in like relatively soon. Like I don't like them fighting past their primes is not as interesting to me. Them fighting now, I got to tell you, that would be one of my more anticipated fights this year. I think that would be fucking electric. Huge stakes because O'Malley is obviously sitting in something of a very advantageous position. Corey could steal that or certainly even now put himself even further back in the title return that he, I think, still envisions for himself. There's just a lot of going on, to say nothing of the particulars of the striking battle itself that we would get. Count me in as all in favor of O'Malley versus Sandhagen as a fight that I really, really want to see in 2026. That's just my personal opinion.
I think that fight's awesome. That's been a great fight forever. And I love that Corey called for it because that's how you get it. And that seems like what will happen because Sean can also get a title fight by beating Corey. And it is probably easier to beat Corey than it is to beat Umar. And yeah, dude, that fight rocks. So it's bantamweight, man. It's really hard to make a bad fight with top guys at bantamweight. Like it's pretty difficult to do that here.
I know. And getting back to Song Yadong, it's like, dude, is Sandhagen the best guy in the division? I think he's one of the best, but obviously I don't think he's the best guy. But look how skillful this fucking guy is. Sean O'Malley, look how skillful. Jan, skillful. Merab, Nida, I mean, not as skillful, but obviously has a few things working for him that make that all work. Look at Umar. He's got problems, but fucking skillful. And then Song Yadong, it's like, dude, what is your path to beating guys who can do this many things? I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
He has no weapon that is critical. Like there is no one single thing, and not even like a preponderance of offense that is like, he doesn't have anything. He needs, I've said my piece on it.
Yeah.
He needs to go somewhere else.
All right. With that in mind, let's talk now about our friends at Huel. You guys might have heard about them. We talked about them previously on the show, and I want to start with a very basic question, which is, how do you do your macros? How do you make sure you get enough protein in? And not just like the BS kind of protein, but high quality protein. And the kind that can be delivered not so much with just some kind of, gross bulking way where you're eating bad food that's not great for you, but, in a kind of healthy, sustained, and nutrient dense and nutrient rich kind of way. Well, our friends at Huel are going to take care of you. I want to tell you about their Black Edition RTD, that stands for ready to drink, and Black Edition powder. Why? It's the ready-to-drink bottle, emergency high-protein, complete freaking meal. And the best part is, if you want to grab one of those bottles on the go, show that graphic one more time, Long Island Luke. These ones, this is what I'm talking about here, right? These two things, of course, available at Target, as we're going to indicate here. But more to the point as well, they also have the powder, which is controlled, customizable, high-protein, complete meal itself. And, of course, you can remix that in a few different directions. 35 grams of protein or more in the ready-to-drink bottle, and the powder sitting at 40 grams per serving. You're going to get your macros done in the best way that you have seen them. 27 essential vitamins and minerals for folks who care. It's gluten-free as well. Under $5 per meal. And, of course, if this is important to you, and I know it is for many of you out there, no artificial sweeteners, colors, or flavor. So you can hit your protein goals in a much more easy, almost like default kind of choice way if you need to, that's healthy. It's got a great bundle for building good habits in the morning or how you want to end your day, depending on how it goes. But of course, it's gonna weave right into all of you having good patterns in the morning and having a good routine in the morning, both with your diet as well as just self-care generally, is really important. the way in which Huel delivers their product is going to help you integrate that very, very seamlessly. So here's what you guys are going to do, right? If you're focusing on protein right now, and I know many of you are, or just feeling like a little more put together, this bundle is going to help you. Get Huel's high protein starter kit today with our exclusive offer of 20% off. You can use this online with the code, listen to me now, Combat20, KOMBAT, the numbers 20, Combat20. Go to Huel, Huel, Huel.com/Combat20, Huel.com/Combat20, new customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. All right, very good. With that in mind, let's now talk about the rest of the UFC 324 main card. Let's start with the heavyweights. What a weird ass. I don't even know. What do you even. I don't know how to talk about Waldo Cortez Acosta and Derek Lewis except to say, is the story, Jed, that Waldo Cortez Acosta is actually pretty good? Or is the story now that Derek Lewis at 40 years of age is just kind of bad?
I think the story is Derek Lewis needs some Huel in his life. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. Maybe Cuervo is actually what he needs. I don't know. That was weird. I've watched it a lot. I don't know that this is true, and I don't want to cast aspersions on Derek Lewis, who is a very fun man. That looked like a little bit of one of my favorite fights of all time. Not the fight as a whole, but the ending. It looked a little like Kimbo Dada. I'm just tired. Like there was just I'm a tired knockout because like, it's not like he jawed him. It was like the babiest of shots. And Derek just sort of tumped over, like Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. And then once he was on the ground, it was over because Waldo can just get on. Then he hit the shit out of him once he was on the ground. But like, dude, Derek Lewis looked like an almost 42-year-old man. That's my big, like he has been a fun fighter. He's had a significantly better career than I think anyone could have imagined for him. He's 42. He does have a superpower, but he is limited in the rest of his game broadly, though his game works really well. I always respected that about him. And like, he's just past it, man. Like it was a little smoke and mirrors that he was on a 2-fight winning streak because he won them in the way he can win fights, and those dudes gave him fights he could win. But if you are a competent heavyweight who at least has some, like not even like a dialed in sense, a general sense of strategy and tactics, you're probably going to defeat Derek Lewis at this stage of his career.
Slight correction. According to our friends at Wikipedia, Derek Lewis is 40. Now, he's going to be 41.
Was he about to be 41 in February?
Yeah,
I thought
February
he was 41
7th. So in about 2 weeks or less, actually.
I thought he was already 41. My bad.
Yeah. So he's going to be 41 here. But to your point, I mean, you basically get the right idea. I'll say this. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded that sequence where Lewis goes heavy on a hook and then heavy on another hook. And then Cortez Acosta.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
It's like Silva versus Griffin.
Forrest Griffin Silva?
Yes.
In real time, I was like, oh my God, he got him.
I know. I saw some folks say this to me. It looked to them like Izzy versus Gastelum a little bit as well, where Gastelum's flailing, Izzy just kind of pulls and then pops. You know, there's a little bit of that too. But I was like,
except for Gastelum, didn't fall over and just quit.
Yeah.
This was much more the Forrest Griffin, where it's like he wasn't knocked out, he was defeated.
I want to point out something. It wasn't just that he just kind of laid down off the punch. Cortez Acosta just does like the most basic Toriando pass, but he doesn't even really do a pass. He just grabs his knees or his shins and just moves them to the side and then just goes right to knee on belly. And I was like, dude, you just let this motherfucker, like you didn't even roll to the side to frame out. Just lets him go right around. I was like, dude, what the fuck is that? That was a weird part too. But to me, it's like, dude, if you're a bad heavyweight, so you overcommit positionally, or you are not athletic enough to retreat quickly, yeah, Lewis, I think, still actually might hurt you because he's going to chase you down. He'll swing wide. He does that jumping switch kick, that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So Cortez Acosta, it's a meat and potatoes game, Jed. But if you're athletic, if you have room to move, to retreat, and you have, obviously because of your athleticism and whatnot, you have decent timing and you've got a jab, brother, you can win a title at heavyweight. Cyril Gane is that times a million. Why does he win? Because he's got, when he's not getting choked out by John Jones, but like on the feet, he's got a good jab. He moves pretty well. He's pretty athletic in getting out of the way. And that is enough to beat these people. Dude, Waldor Cortez Acosta, I don't necessarily look at him and think, oh, future champion. But I can't rule it out at heavyweight, just given the state of things.
No, you can't rule anything out at heavyweight. But like, yeah, dude, he's competent. This is Waldo Cortez Acosta is what used to be a bottom 15 heavyweight. Like not bottom, like the bottom end of a top 15 heavyweight. Like,
that's right.
Like a guy who's like a Heath Herring, like kind of talented, a little bit athletic, competent. And because heavyweight has just died, like just this withering, awful death, he's a top 5, top 6 dude. And yeah, like he's got a good chin, which is also sort of the baseline for success at heavyweight. You just have to be durable. So he's durable. He can jab. He's got enough talent to clear the bar. And the rest of this weight class is just buns. It's so bad because this isn't lightweight, right, Luke? Where it's like, oh my God, it's so impressive that Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira still got the juice at 37. It's like, man, Derek Lewis is 40 and still a top 15 guy because this division is in shambles.
Waldo Cortez Acosta wants Blades next. We have a graphic to this effect.
Last thing for me, you called out Curtis Blades. Stylistically, he might seem to be your most difficult matchup in the weight class. Do you believe he would be the most difficult opponent for you thus far?
Y llamaste a Curtis Blades en términos de estilo, tal vez una de las peleas más difíciles, uno de los retos más grandes en la división. ¿Algo acerca de eso?
No es muy difícil, no es un reto así muy grande que digamos. Ya he pasado otros retos más grandes que han pasado ya en las últimas 3 peleas pasadas. Y lo quiero porque se puso a hablar disparate en lo que viene siendo la social media y la gente que habla disparate a mí no me gusta y quiero romperle la cabeza.
Listen, I don't think it's going to be a tough challenge. I do believe I've had harder challenges, especially in my last 3 fights. And I don't think it's going to be that much. And listen, I want Curtis Blades because he's been saying some things on social media, and people who talk crap, I don't like him, so I don't want to rip his head off.
Although just one quick one. The Mexico card's getting built like very quickly. It already has a main event. Would you rather fight in Mexico on the undercard or headline a card against Curtis Blades?
O sea, no sé si sabes porque la categoría de México se está llenando. Están poniendo peleadores ahí, muchos latinos. O sea, ya tienen obviamente un estelar. ¿Qué te interesa más? ¿Pelear ahí en México en cualquier ubicación de esta cartelera o tal vez un estelar contra Curtis Blades en otro sitio?
A mí no me importa qué rango de pelea me den en México. Yo quiero pelear en México y quiero romperle la cabeza a Curtis Blades en México.
I don't care where they put me in there. I want to fight in Mexico, and I want to rip Curtis Blades' head off in Mexico.
His chances to defeat Curtis Blades are what?
Ooh, that's a really good question, Luke. I think that's a great call out because like the only other dude you kind of call out at that point if you're WCA is, I mean, maybe you try to moonshot Cyril Gane because Tom might be out for a while, but like the other guy is Alexander Volkov, and that seems like that's just a low upside fight. But he has been very good defensively as a wrestler. He hasn't fought a lot of like great wrestlers, mind you, but like WCA has a very good, statistically speaking, takedown defense. And Curtis Blades, like he can compete on the feet, but if he can stuff a bunch of Curtis Blades takedowns, I wouldn't shock me if WCA just sort of jabbed his way to a victory. And then if he beats Curtis Blades, like, yeah, put him in a title fight. So I like the call out, and I'd favor Blades, but 60-40.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. It's like he lost to Pavlovich, so I do think we've seen some of the limits of what Cortez Acosta can be. But the Blades one is, again, he's earned a fight like that. And honestly, Blades could use some momentum that Cortez Acosta has built for himself. I actually like the call out. I like the fight. Put it in Mexico, put it wherever they want. I don't know, but I definitely like what he's thinking. All right, which takes us to Jesus. God, fuck me.
We're going to Jesus.
Here's how bad this fight was. I talked to Brian Campbell all day yesterday via text. We're just sharing a bunch of thoughts.
Who's that?
About the card. Huh?
Who's that?
Oh, he's
I don't
this
know
guy.
that name.
He's this guy who, when he watches strawweights, puts his pants around his ankles and then masturbates at the bus stop. But putting that aside,
good day for him yesterday, then. Or
yeah, a little chilly. Well, I was just gonna say, here's how Brian did not shit on this. I want to be clear, but the fact that he didn't even bring this fight up to me, he had nothing to say about it. I think tells you, dude, this fight was bad. This Rose Namajunas Natalia Silva fight, it was bad. I kind of thought Rose maybe deserved to win it. I do recognize Silva probably won the third. I guess the second round was a bit of a swing round. I don't know. I don't know where the hell Rose is. I don't know what's happening with where she's coming or going in terms of her space in this division. She still beats people, but then she loses fights where she doesn't seem to have the kind of urgency that she would need, Jed. And more to the point, Silva was dancing like she was doing, that Dak Prescott warm-up where he does the hip twist everywhere like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
She was doing the Dak Prescott. Right, her footwork was doing the Dak Prescott. No, again, she warmed up eventually. She had that nice throw Silva did from the double overhooks.
She does the Dak Prescott in the middle of the fight constantly, just like she's salsing her hips. It's so weird.
It drives me crazy. But she did have the nice throw. That side kick to the face on Rose was nice. But just what has happened to Rose? Your reaction to this bout, and then we'll talk about what happens next after.
I wrote about this today from McFighting.com, so you go check it out. I think it's up on the site by now. We do like an after action report for the thing. And Rose Namajunas, I feel when I watch her fight, and when I watch her fight the last several fights since she's moved up to flyweight, I think of the Lewis Carroll Mad Hatter quote. You used to be much more muchier. You've lost your muchness. Like, Rose was always a mercurial fighter, right? Like, she had super high eyes, and the Carlos Esparza fight is like an atrocity. But since coming up to 125, she doesn't have, there's no juice. There's no muchness to her. She's not losing by a lot. She's maybe raised that floor a little bit from some of her worst performances, but there's nothing going on. Even when she's saying the Lord's Prayer and talking to herself, it's no longer like, oh, she's going to put a foot upside some person's head. She's going to edge out Miranda Maverick. This was an imminently winnable fight for her, and she never got there. And so I don't know. She is one of the more fascinating figures in the history of the sport to me, just because of how good she could be, but could never consistently get there. But wasn't like a flash in the pan like a Cody Garbrandt. She's had longevity. But yeah, she's lost her muchness, man. And I don't know how you get that back. Maybe it just won't. Maybe we're just too far gone. But this was kind of a bummer of a fight to watch. Even if maybe you expect, outside of it sucking, maybe even if you expected it, this fight crystallized to me oh, Rose isn't. We're never getting back what we had.
Yeah, she might still win again, but whatever the magic was, that I don't know what happened to it. Also, I was so bummed out by the fight. Again, it wasn't the worst fight I've ever seen or something, but just the cumulative weight, I should say, of how poorly women's MMA has just become and turned. I put out a thread yesterday and be like, hey, what are the best women's fights of all time? And obviously not in boxing, but in MMA. And there was a lot of great responses, but then one thing I noticed was I can't remember any of them being within the last few years. You know what I mean? All the ones that they're picking happened, 2020 or much earlier than that, including into the Strikeforce days. I don't know what has happened to the game. There's probably a few factors to say it, but Jesus, bro, it is. I don't want to be this way where the first two cards in the Paramount era, Jed, there's one fight on the card from Saturday and there are fucking none on the next one. But it's dude, I don't know what people want the UFC to do at this point. Game's gone, brother. It's just not the same anymore, and I'm not getting the same amount of enjoyment. It really is quite depressing, I have to be honest.
Game has in fact done changed. I don't know how to save it. It is dire.
I know it's a boomer take to be like, our era of MMA was better, but dude, what is this era's equivalent to for example, Miesha Tate versus Kat Zingano? What's the equivalent of that?
It's not a boomer. It's objectively true. I know that it's objectively true, because all the same women's fighters who were good are still in the top of the rankings now. Miesha Tate is a ranked bantamweight. I know that's not the division we're talking about, but like this has been these same same women for 10 years. And it's not like they got better because they got 10 years older. Yeah. Like it is there, and there's so limited like growth, like who's coming along, like who are the like Natalia Silva is the leader, vanguard of the new generation. And it's like, okay, if she beats Valentina Shevchenko, that's not that she's that good. It's that Valentina Shevchenko's pushing 40 and she's been fighting professionally for 20 years. And at some point you just can't do it forever.
Yeah.
It is tough scenes right now.
Your level of excitement for Natalia Silva versus Shevchenko?
Oh, incredibly limited. And I want to be very clear about this. I'm an enormous Valentina Shevchenko stan. I've been standing her for literal years. That is not because it's the exact opposite reasons that I stand Justin Gaethje and Yuri Prochazka. She is not the most fun person to watch. When she competes, I am watching, in my estimation, the greatest female fighter of all time. And so I will have polite, respectful applause, like golf clap. This, that fight is me sitting in the opera box watching opera and being like, very good, despite not really being moved by it. All
right. Elsewhere on this card, and this was a fun one for me, a little bit heartbreaking based on the way that it went, but not so much. Jeon Silva looked, I'd say, much more patient this time in a win over Arnold Allen. How much did this restore your faith that Jeon Silva could contend for a title following that loss to Diego Lopez, but now with this great win over Arnold Allen?
Dude, this was the fight I was the most curious about, because I said after Jeon Silva lost to Diego Lopez, and I think I even said in the pregame preview that we did, I was like, I wonder if that loss will be a Justin Gaethje moment. Because remember when Gaethje came in from WSOF and he's like, I'm just trying to get into car crashes. And then he got knocked out. He finally found his equal and went back to the lab and retooled his game in a very effective way. I was like, maybe that's just what Jeon Silva needed. Don't turn off the bozo. Just, you got to be able to modulate the bozo mid fight. And he did. He 100% did that against Arnold Allen. He still had it. He surfed a dude. I've never seen a guy surf a guy in the middle of a fight, Luke, but he surfed a man. So he still got the bozo in him, and at times he would unleash it, but it was much more controlled. And he just consummately beat Arnold Allen, who I think is a very, very good, not great fighter. And so I left this being like, oh yeah, he's going to win the belt. I believed 2 years ago Jeon Silva was going to win the belt, and now I'm like, he's definitely going to win the belt. Maybe not next, but in the next 2 years.
You know what that reminded me of when he was surfing like that? People were saying, oh, it was like Diaz against Silva when he just kind of laid down, But to me, it's like, dude, Jeon Silva brings regional MMA energy to a high level bout. 100%. Where he's just doing shit you would never expect, that is crazy, that makes no sense, is kind of fun, kind of weird, kind of crazy, and it just works,
Dude, he's Michelle Pereira if Michelle Pereira was good. That's just it. He's Michelle Pereira, and I loved Demolador. He was so fun regionally as a complete psycho. Yeah. And then when he retooled his game, he got boring, and then he just got bad. Jeon Silva's just way better. Also, I've been on this corner, but I want to get this take out. Jeon Silva is the best of the fighting nerds. I've been saying it. I think he is the most talented, best fighter of the nerds.
You think he's better than Caio?
I do.
Would Caio be 2?
I think Caio is 2 because and Prates is 3. And I think Ruffy's 4. But is there anybody else there that's because I know they got
the
Oleksiejczuk, but
kind of counts, whatever.
If counting them, they're below those 4 anyway. But I've thought for a while Jeon Silva was the best bet for the fighting nerds to get a belt. Still feel that way.
Arnold Allen, you knew that the same thing was going to plague him in this fight. You didn't know if it was going to be a losing factor or not, but that it would be something he had to overcome. He kind of starts a little bit late. I did think he opened up on him a little bit in that second round with some better energy, but he had even lower output in the third than he did, I think, in any of the other 2 previous rounds. And for me, Jed, in a sport where, again, do I appreciate how defensively sound Arnold Allen is? Sure, man. You rarely see him get hit super clean or get fucked up. Like, he leaves fights looking okay, but he leaves his fights kind of losing against some of these better guys because it's just not offense is much more important than defense in this sport. And I don't feel like his game is as good as it is, and it is good. And he's still young. I just don't think his orientation for how he prioritizes it is enough to beat the very best guys, even if they are more defensively limited than him.
Yeah, I love Arnold Allen. I think Arnold Allen seems like one of the very few fighters who I would genuinely just like to hang out with, like would just be a good time. And he's very good. He is like kind of the worst of the TriStar team to me, not like as a fighter, but like he is my issues with TriStar is that it is like a much more defensively focused gym, and he doesn't have any of the things that he needs to really, really excel at the top, other than he doesn't get beat up that bad. But also when you are perpetually injured, not getting beat up it's not really that big of an advantage, because it's not like, oh, I'm healthy, I can turn around and fight in 3 weeks. That's just not ever been how it's worked for him. So I think he's probably never fighting for a belt, which is weird, because if you'd asked me a few years ago, it'd have been like 100%. There's just not a question in my mind. And he's going to be like a Martin Kampmann, like real heads who lived through the time will respect him, but that's just sort of where he's at in his career, I think.
Let's move now to topic number 4, which is the preliminary card itself. So there's a lot to go over here. Let's start with what they call the main event of the prelims. Umar Nurmagomedov kind of easily, for the most part, beats Deiveson Figueiredo. But the reality is, Jed, by the end of the bout, and other periods before, but certainly by the end of the bout, Umar was getting booed by the crowd. Now, I'm not here to validate the boos as such, but it just seems to kind of signify something to me. Number one, Umar and Usman Nurmagomedov are obviously very good, but they're not Khabib. Like, they're a step down from that pretty clearly to me. They can do a lot of things, speaking of people that have a lot of tools, but they don't have necessarily a ton of danger to their game. It's just a lot of heavy control or heavy maintenance of range, right? So that's one problem. But the other problem is, in a world where, you're very, very good, but you're kind of like the bantamweight John Fitch of the modern era, I just don't know what gifts that's going to get you. To me, Jed, it's interesting that you had a Nurmagomedov on this card. And anytime there's a Nurmagomedov in the PFL, whether there's attending or on the card itself, they blow it up like it's the biggest deal. UFC kind of downplayed it this time, to be honest with you. They put the guy in the fucking prelims, for crying out loud. How do you read this performance and how the UFC perceives Umar Nurmagomedov following Saturday's win?
Dude, Luke, has any fighter of the past year, like the past 12 months, had a worse year that didn't lose a bunch, right? Like, somebody loses 5 fights or whatever, sure. But like Umar's stock this time last year, I guess this time 12 and a half months ago, right? Everybody, we did a pregame preview. I was like, Umar is going to beat Merab because he's the best bantamweight on the world. Like, everyone, the broad thought was that Umar was the dude to maybe take the GOAT title in this weight class. And then his stock has not like plummeted, but it has just been a steady decline of like, okay, you're good, but you're Movsar Evloev. Why the hell do we care about you? If his last name was not Nurmagomedov, he would be in the Movsar Evloev, you are screwed zone. And as tough as he is very good, but I think you nailed it. Where's the offense? Where's the danger in fighting Umar Nurmagomedov? Because there isn't any. The danger is you lose like a nip tuck decision because he's very good everywhere. But Khabib was a fucking demon. Like, Luke, do you remember watching Khabib beat the souls out of people when he got them down? I'm not saying everybody can be that, but that element was to his game. Islam, when he gets you down, he is a genuine submission hunter, and he is actually like a real threat on the feet as well. Umar's just kind of good. He's just good at everything. Same as Usman. Like, they're good. But if you're not going to scare somebody, it's tougher to be a dominant force if people aren't afraid to fight you.
Bro, Khabib was mean. People forget this. Like, his style was you know, you'd feel bad for people if they spent a lot of time underneath him. You're like, dude, this is fucking hard to watch a little bit because they can't do shit and they're getting beat up. And then he's setting up submissions eventually towards the end. I mean, and again, for folks who may not recall, he could have ended the Gaethje fight earlier. He took fucking pity on him because he didn't want to break his arm. So he ended up changing the submission to a different one.
See, he's not that mean.
Yeah, okay,
but he took pity on him.
But then he goes out the door on that call. But like in general, like, you know, talking to Michael Johnson, like, you have to give up now. This is going to go bad for you. And he's beating the shit out of him.
He had a gear. He had a level of like, I am better than you and I'm going to hurt you. The same that Islam has. Like
yes.
And maybe that's just natural, right? Because like if you think about it, that kind of makes sense to me of like, okay, Khabib and Islam, outside of being training partners for life, they were both sort of they were the vanguards of this camp. They sort of led the way. And then the trickle down, the next generation are just people who learned in their mold. But like, how do you teach somebody to be a hard-nosed son of a bitch? Like it's tough to instill that into people.
Yeah.
And like, they just naturally had it because they had to do this. And so if you told me that Umar was going to get nasty, I'd be like, he's going to be a real problem. But now I'm like, I still think he's going to beat most people, but it's not going to be this dominant force. It's going to be winning on the margins.
I'll be really curious to see what they do with him this year, given that like people are starting to get like exactly how good he is or how limited he is. I think this year is going to be real. How they treat Umar will tell you a lot about how they treat the kind of fighter that Umar is. I'll be looking forward to that. All right.
I'll tell you, what I do like from Umar is he seems to recognize what's going on, that he had not a good year, basically, because he's coming out and be like, I'll fight anybody, dude. I don't care. He's not trying to negotiate his way into a title fight as he previously like was really doing. He's just like, dude, it doesn't matter. If I got to fight somebody, line them up, I'll knock them down. And I think that's how he got to be, right? Because he has not blown the doors off people. He has not shook the world up. So you've got to just be like, I'll fight anybody. Don't care. Give me him.
That brings us now to Ateba Gaethje. Now, he did win, and he did brutalize his opponent, but his opponent, Pulev, turned out to be tougher than a $2 or $3 steak, whatever the saying is.
I got to tell you, I don't think that matters. If you're paying $2 or $3, you're probably getting the same quality of steak, Luke.
Fair enough. Anyway, whatever the saying is, he got worked, but he survived and in fact fought back a little bit. And what it kind of showed was Gaethje clearly had a physical force and still young enough where he can do some stuff, but a little green, a little offensively limited. He had an opponent circling out to his weak side, and he kept throwing the straight.
Could not figure it out.
As opposed to the hook. And I'm watching this being like, dude, greet him.
Body.
I know. I was like, dude, greet him with the hook. What are you doing?
It's one of those things like, obviously, Ateba Gaethje, much better fighter than I am. Like, I'm not saying that. But I was just like, dude, at what point does your brain be like, man, every time I'm trying to throw this right hand, he's even further over. And so I'm just like punching nothing. What if I try the hand that's closer to him? It was nuts.
Hey, Long Island Luke, can you do me a favor?
Perhaps.
You there?
Yeah.
My daughter is acting up here for just a second. Can I have just a minute to go fix what devastation she has laid waste to?
Oh God.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I'll put Jed full and
all right. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I promise.
Oh, dude, I'm the captain now, boys.
Yeah.
The chat is gonna hate this. Yeah. The chat is gonna be furious that I'm the captain.
They'll be all right with it. Jed, let's talk the rest of the prelims. I mean,
I want to say one more thing about Gaethje, because as Luke sort of teed it up, I was like, dude, he's still 23, so that's totally fine. But I pulled it up because Long Island, he's been fighting now for 4 years. So yeah, he is green, but he's 23, and the fact that he could win against a limited opponent, I'm certainly not here to say that Pulev is some world beater. But the fact that he won, he wasn't really in danger of losing. This is one of those, I think this is just a good win for him, right? Like it's not that exciting. I lost money on it. That was a bummer. But like
you didn't climb with it though, right?
I did, but because it was the first leg dead, I just reclimbed with the next two and cashed. Okay. So it's fine. But like this is one of those where it's like, yeah, sometimes you have to learn where your limitations are. And now he'll go back, and I think Luke Barnett's his coach, and they'll be like, okay, we need to give you a left hook. and we need to teach you a little bit more about footwork because he doesn't have a ton of that. And, you know, progress isn't linear, but at 23, I still expect very big things for Teba Gauthier. This is just one of those that you get. That's because that's how fighting works. Not everything's going to be your best day ever.
Facts.
All right, I'm back. Hold on 1 second. Oh, the fucking thing fell off. Hang on.
Did Tukey break that
I can't
too?
hear anything. I got to switch earplugs.
Tukey has been
1
absolutely
second here.
devastating.
Sorry about that.
this
My
show.
daughter, she came in the house and I heard it. And then I heard her come screaming down the hallway, which meant that in Arctic temperatures, she had left the door open, which she did.
That's good.
And there was all this shit in the house as a consequence. So I had to go fix that. Okay. Sorry about that.
We don't forgive you.
All right. Very good. Well, let's get to the rest of what we saw here. Alex Perez scoring a first-round stoppage over Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson's got a weird career here, right, Jed? He's got a win over Josh Van, but he has losses like this and some other ones as well. He is, I don't know, how surprised should we be by this win?
We shouldn't be surprised because Charles Johnson defies expectation constantly. It just seems like he's going to win the fights he's supposed to lose and lose the fights he's supposed to win. He didn't like the stoppage. I think that's fine. The thing I am most surprised about, frankly, is not Charles Johnson. The end of it is like, I thought Alex Perez was real washed, and I guess he's still got some juice in him, right? Like he won the fight. It's his first win. He's only won like 2 fights now, his last 7 or 8. But like, that's good on Alex Perez, and Charles Johnson remains an enigma to me.
He's got a weird career. He has the loss to Makayev, okay, his UFC debut. Fine, fair enough.
Totally explicable.
You know, and he's got the loss to Ode Osborne, which was split, and that was a few years ago. All right. Cody Durden can wrestle. Okay. And then he goes on a bit of a 4-fight win streak, which you put Van and Sumaderje in, and of course, he knocks out Van in round 3. And then he's just kind of been up and down since then. He has the win over Loner Kavanaugh, but then, dude, I didn't see it coming. I thought Perez was kind of a forgotten figure in this division, or at a bare minimum that Johnson was resurgent, but I guess not. Kind of an interesting surprise there.
Super weird.
All right, and then there's this one, which is Josh Hokett at heavyweight is clearly pretty good. He is athletic. He can wrestle. He moves forward. You know, he's got good reaction time. He's got a bit of a mean streak. Like, these are all things that are going to take you pretty far as a fighter. However, he appears to be completely unbearable. Before you react, Dana has a conversation. Sorry, I have a different one. Never mind. We'll come to that one separately. Ignore that one. Getting back to this one, what is your reaction to how should we feel about Josh Hokett?
He's a good fighter. He's not like a great fighter, but he's also fairly young, especially at heavyweight. I mean, the truth is, if looking at Josh Hokett, my dominant thought is, if I were a semi-decent but not exceptional light heavyweight, I'd move up to heavyweight, because Josh Hokett is just beating heavyweights because he has a gas tank that is not, held down by 50 extra pounds of fat. So it's just like, but that's not to say he's not a good fighter. He obviously is, right? He comes from a wrestling background. He has the mean streak that, we talked about with guys like Umar would be really nice to have. And, he's got a put together game. It all kind of works together. He doesn't have a superpower, at least not that I've seen yet, but he can do this to many, if not most heavyweights, because of the state of the division. If he ever dropped to 205, I mean, that's also a bad division, but like, I think he could have plenty of success there as well. And whether you can't stand him or not, like, he is at the bare minimum. Luke, I do not ascribe to the idea that all publicity is good publicity. I think that there is a lot of truth to it insofar as breaking through the just ever-present noise of this sport and the UFC's consistent attempts to sort of make everything monochrome. He at least is breaking through, even if maybe it's not in a way I would choose to do it.
Yeah, he's unbearable, but the problem is he's good, and that's going to take him pretty far.
And just reusing old pro wrestling stuff will take you far. in this sport because nobody else is doing anything at all. The bar is on the floor for being like interesting, and at the minimum, he's doing that.
So let's go to point number 5. Oh, sorry. Before we do, we do have Dana talking about. So there was this Michael Johnson Alexander Hernandez bout that was on the card, but the betting lines were kind of crazy. Some places had limited betting before the fight, and then Dana, or the UFC, I should say, ended up pulling the bout altogether in the wake of the Isaac Dolgarian scandal. We were like, okay, did a betting integrity firm tell them to pull it? Turns out that they did. Here's Dana.
Last thing for me, we did have a fight cancellation today. Not a lot of details on the information of what happened there. There's speculation that maybe this was a wagering flag. What can you tell us?
That's what it is. Happened again. You know, we got called from the Gaming Integrity Service, and I said, I'm not doing this shit again. So we pulled the fight.
Canceled fight from today. Like, what happens now? Is there an investigation? Like,
I mean, the FBI's already, deep into all this stuff anyway, so I'm sure this one will be next.
Right. So, like, are those guys out of action until something concludes, or is it just one side of the fight?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Your reaction?
Dude, this fucking rocked. Dude, I wish I was I just want to be in one Paramount meeting this week and be like, God damn, we got the full UFC experience for our first one, eh? We had a major fight fall off the card. We had a guy almost die at weigh-ins. We had a gambling scandal, and we had a dude get on the mic and just issue casual bigotry. Like, they got the whole enchilada as far as what you can expect from a UFC fight card, and a banger of a fight in the main event. So good on Paramount to get it all in. This gambling thing, I saw it, like, I was in transit when I saw the first tweets about line movement happening. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate because I had money on Alexander Hernandez. And then it got pulled, and it's very obvious why I got pulled. I don't know that anybody has confirmed anything, but, like, to me, Luke, this is just sort of the nature of the sport and its current incarnation, because pure speculation, I don't have any inside information. My strong guess is that Alexander Hernandez needed to fight because fighters live paycheck to paycheck. And he came in with an injury and was just going to fight with the injury regardless and hope for the best, because we see fighters do this all the time. Maybe you can get the W. It's not like he was going to come in and throw the fight necessarily, but then somebody was like, oh, Alex has a broken whatever. Let's just put some money on Michael Johnson, because that's when you don't pay people enough money, they're going to fight for you because they need the money. It doesn't really matter the circumstances of their condition.
Yeah. And as Long Island Luke points out, which I had seen before, again, it may utterly be coincidental. I have no idea the causal relationship such that there is even any. However, this is yet another Jason House fighter from Iridium, and then another Factory X fighter as well. So,
jeez, dude.
I also want to point out, I brought this up on Friday's show. I said, oh, the lines have actually moved a lot. A lot of money has come in on Michael Johnson. I didn't think it was anything worth like flagging at that moment, but they continued to come down. It's just interesting that we were talking about that.
Yeah.
I have to guess that is circumstance, because you'd have to be either the ballsiest or the stupidest motherfucker alive to be like in the crosshairs right now and be like, I'm going to do it again. This is not the fucking town. I'm going to put a move on them and then we're still going to throw a fight. Like,
in the Jason House defense too, though, he does have like 60% of the roster. You know what I mean? Like the odds of it being
just mathematically,
mathematically, it's more.
The Factory
likely,
X thing is a little more interesting to me.
The Factory X thing is the one that's interesting. It's like, I think it just has to be coincidence, but man, you get enough coincidences and that starts to become a problem.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting fact. All right, but last but not least, let's just talk about the overall event and the presentation and the broadcast and everything else therein. Jed, it's a simple question. UFC 324 broadcast debut on Paramount. Some changes. Some folks thought not enough. Some folks thought just right. They added a bunch of new elements. We had the War Pigs rundown and the sizzle reel. Then we had the normal sizzle reel. Then we had the Travis Barker sizzle reel. We'll talk about all the ads in just a moment. But as a general idea for you, like a sort of a way to understand it, what worked about this broadcast and what didn't? And overall, what kind of grade would you give? Again, not so much the fight card, but the broadcast, the way it was shown.
Well, the broadcast, if not considering the fight card,
I mean, they're all kind of related, but you know.
Yeah, well, but like overall, I would give this card a B- because I think a lot of it was misses, but you ended on a high note, and that's the most important thing. If I'm just talking about the broadcast, the production elements, I'll give it a C+, like a little bit of a docked point there, because I do want to be open to the idea that, I forget who said it from the UFC, but came out and was like, we're trying some new stuff, bear with us. Most of the new stuff they tried didn't really work for me. But the earlier start time, like, it ended up mattering, but not as much as I had hoped, because it was so bloated. We took so long to do so much shit there. The pacing was pretty poor. And there were a lot of ads, but also I don't know if this is a hot take, Luke. I just don't give a shit about the ads thing. You know why? Because I'm not paying $80. So it's fine to put some more ads. The only thing I will say in that regard that I really disliked, and I think my biggest criticism of the whole production, is that they don't show walkouts anymore. And somebody reported that's just part of the Paramount deal. They are like, the deal structurally, they're only going to show like a few. And that sucks, because it's one of the few times you get to see the energy of a fighter. They have even an opportunity to stand out from the faceless mass that is the UFC. And they're just not even showing that anymore. So I can get commercials, which is kind of lame. But other than that, it was a UFC production. It felt very much the same. They just added a couple of things this time around.
So let's talk about the ads too. I mean, I guess as a general perspective, I've worked with Kate Abdo. I think she's great. I think the shows she's on with CBS Sports Galazo with Jamie Carragher, Big Meeks, and Thierry Henry is fucking first rate. I absolutely love it. I don't know that a lot was necessarily added to the broadcast in this particular way, nor did I expect it to be. It's just a little hard to stand out, but they were trying to give it the CBS rub. Fair enough. Shouts to all of them. They did certainly the job that they were tasked with doing. The pacing sucked. Dude, the Travis Barker thing, I was like, dude, what the fuck is the connection between this bullshit? I've interviewed Travis Barker a number of times. He is legitimately a huge MMA fan. When I was on SiriusXM and I would do their pre-fight shows, he would call in every single time, and we didn't pay the guy. Like, he just wanted to talk fights. It was crazy. So respect to him as an MMA fan. He's a real MMA fan, and that's legit. But like, I don't need to see that shit, especially after you do the War Pigs thing. Here's what I will say though, and I think you'll probably agree with this, Jed. One of the key things that they had to do this time was make it feel big, and they did. And they did it with fucking Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje as your main event, with all the different lights in the crowd, and then the curtains dropping on that thing, and then there's Bruce ready to announce. Cool. Yeah, and then again, those little lights that everyone had in the audience, dude, they made it feel fucking big, and that worked for me. Whether or not every part of the fight card delivered for you or anyone else out there watching, fair enough. Maybe it was just the main event or whatever your perspective. Did the UFC lean into this to make it feel like a much larger event than normal and special, and that it should stand out in your mind? I think that they did. And I think if that's really the most important consideration, including that main event, as you indicated, then it was a bit of a success. But I do want to talk about the ads, because here's my view on this. It is absolutely fucking naive to think, and it's not, I don't even know if it's honestly mathematically possible for the Paramount Plus service to make money on this deal just doing subscription as their play, right? We're just going to make money from how many people sign up. I don't know if folks have seen their numbers. Paramount Plus has some interesting numbers, around 60 to 70 million worldwide, which is pretty big. It's a fraction of what Netflix is, but it's still pretty big. It's about double or triple, depending on how you want to measure it, ESPN Plus. But at the same time, they would have to triple the amount of subscriptions they have with no churn to probably break even on this deal. It's just not possible. So the ads are going to be there. But here's my thing, okay, on this, Jed.
Do we have the same thing? I do have one major criticism.
I pay for YouTube Premium. I pay for it. I don't ever see ads. And as someone on YouTube, I recognize that ads is how I make a lot of money, but I pay into the premium one so that my experience using the service is uninterrupted. And I would pay for a tier where I could watch walkouts and I would not have to see. Okay, they probably couldn't get rid of all the ad integrations because they were doing it like on lower thirds and on the sides of screens, like during intros. You probably can't get rid of those. But if they would make a special tier where I could get rid of those other kinds of ads between rounds and walkouts, I would pay for that. It's just they don't have that available, and so I don't know what else to say. This is just what it's going to be.
So that is my criticism, because I don't care about the ads. I'll even say I actually, and this maybe is just because we shifted over and so it is different. I got a diversity of ads, right? At ESPN, when it was working and wasn't freezing, which credit to Paramount. Some other people had problems. I didn't have any issues with the streams. So good on them for that. I at least got different ads. I got the same 3 ads at ESPN over and over. And by the end of the night, I wanted to blow my brains out. So that was nice. The thing that is a criticism of, and I think a valid one, I signed up for the yearly Paramount thing. I was previously on month to month, but now this is part of my job. I'm on the yearly thing. When I signed up for the yearly one, I chose the lesser of 2 because they do have 2 tiers. And as it explains in it, the lower tier comes with ads. And I said, okay. And the higher tier, they say, still comes with some ads for premium stuff, but has fewer ads. And I was like, and based on everything I have heard, if you paid for the more expensive tier, there was no difference. You still got the same ads. And to me, that is shitty. Like, that's like, why even have why pay $50 a year extra if it's not substantively different, especially if I am coming to Paramount for the UFC. Because if I was like a random fan and I'd never had Paramount Plus and I was like, oh, I'll pay the premium, I won't get ads, and I'm getting the same ads, I'd be pretty upset about that right now.
I'll also say this, when this is, I don't think this is good and I wouldn't want it this way, but one of the things that shocked me one time was that I watched, just let me go through this. I watched the Colombian national team, soccer team, play. I forget who they were playing, but they were playing, and I was in Colombia at the time. So I was watching the game on like national television there. Dude, during the fucking games, listen to this, during the fucking games, they'll play an ad on the screen. It won't block up the entire screen, but it takes up a lot of real estate. And then the audio goes over the top and they kill the audio of the broadcast itself. So you just have to hear the commercial play through, and it doesn't matter what action is happening on the field. So they usually play it when the ball is like at midfield or something. Yeah. They kind of strategically wait. But I've seen it where they're in scoring drives and they're getting close and then they're trying to attack. And you're hearing like ads for fucking, Coca-Cola or whatever over the top. And I'm like, dude, I hope this is not our future. To me, it was an enormous amount. They didn't do something like that. They didn't interrupt the integrity of the actual fight broadcast during the fights themselves. But it got close to it, and I've seen worse, but I'm just hoping that that's not a roadmap for the future. I'll just say that.
It's not going to be a roadmap because of the difference of the sport, right? But like I've always thought that that's sort of how they should do ads anyway, right? Especially for live sports, is like, give me a constant feed of the game, and you can go back like picture in picture. Here's the ad with the audio. They do it on Red Zone, and they pick like the boring time of Red Zone where nothing's happening. Now that Red Zone has ads, which is bullshit, but whatever. And they pull it up, and here's the ad, but you never lose feed. I don't know why they can't do that for the UFC. It's like, here's the cage or whatever's happening, like the broadcast that would be without ads. We just have this Charmin ad running with audio for 15 seconds. And that would be fine. But like, I would at least be better. And it won't happen as you were putting it for that, because the unique dynamic of soccer is it is 45 uninterrupted minutes and then another 45 uninterrupted minutes. If you're going to put ads, you got to go over action. You don't have to do that for the fights. You can pretty easily parse that away.
Yeah, fair point. Let's talk about, well, actually, you know what? Dana was asked about the amount of ads. Here's what he had to say.
Obviously, we are no longer on pay-per-view, so there was a bit of a different viewing experience tonight. There was a lot of ads during the broadcast, sometimes over the walks and sometimes over the corner work. Is that something fans are going to have to get used to, or is that a work in progress that you'll change going
I haven't
forward?
seen it yet, and all this is a work in progress. It's $8.99. You're not paying fucking, however much more. These guys gotta make some money too. So, yeah.
Would that be something that they decide, or would you watch it back and maybe think, okay, co-main event, we should still hear the corner work, or are you just like, listen, Paramount paid for it, they get to decide?
Well, that is a fact. Let's start there. but these guys are incredible to work with already. So we'll figure it out.
I mean, again, I understand if people aren't used to it. I don't disagree with Dana. Like, bro, the shit is cheap. This is the question, right? Ultimately, would you rather be back on the ESPN deal and then have to pay for pay-per-views, or do you want ads and it's a much cheaper price? And I honestly think that most people are going to be like, I'll just live with the ads.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, man. Again, like I'm surprised they went this heavy this early, because usually your first encounter, especially one that was very openly about, new fan acquisition, like this was an acquiring event for them to not just like, we're not even gonna have any ads just because this is all front loaded to draw you in and then we shitify later. But that's not what they did, and I think that's fine, right? Like, because I want to be able to see the corners for the biggest fights, so that's annoying. But if you want to do this, I'm with Dana, and I don't ever say that. But like, yeah, they got to find a way to make money, and this is the price you get. There ain't nothing free in life, Luke. The money's got to come from somewhere. It's going to come from this.
Economics 101. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Let's talk a little bit about the discretionary bonuses. They got rid of them. Right. So these like backroom bonuses of whatever they ended up being $3,000 in terms of what they showed, but I'm sure they go higher than that, of course, and they have gone higher. So instead, what they're doing is they're going to change the bonus structure. So anytime, here's what it says. Our friend Aaron Bronstetter has the tweet. It goes like this: performance of the night bonuses are going to be raised from 50 grand to 100 grand. Additionally, any fighter who scores a KO or submission win just automatically earns a $25,000 bonus if they were not selected as the $100,000 bonus winner. Now, not included in this tweet is another reality, which is Alex Perez, for example, scored a submission win, but he missed weight, so therefore he was not eligible for either a performance bonus or that $25,000 automatic finish bonus. Now, I've seen some back of the envelope math done by folks like John Nash and others, and basically this adds about $8.5 million total, give or take, to the year, the total outlays in this bonus program, which, I mean, they were giving out $75,000 bonuses in almost 15 years ago, which, if you do the math on inflation, is about $110,000 today. I don't want to come out here and say, oh, it's no big deal that they're doubling bonuses or whatnot.
Yes, you do. That's what you want to say, Luke.
I just want to say this. It's nice that the bonuses are bigger. And it's nice that if you get a finish, you automatically get a bonus. I'm not saying that on their face they're bad. What I'm asking people to do is stop looking at the sticker price and then just do some arithmetic. And what you'll notice is this is a total outlay of less than the gate that they got at this one event. I just hope everyone understands. We're talking about chump change in a $7.7 billion deal.
Dude, Luke, this is not true for the MK fans who are smart, educated, brilliant people. I'm in the comments, yes. I know.
Of which many of them are, yes.
All of them, really. They're all the best people.
Fair point.
This fan base thinks that Josh Hokett is a genius and a vanguard, and you're expecting them to do the math on inflation. Come on. I just don't care enough. I'm having too good a day to be like, yes, this is more, but it's not at all what they're worth. It's dope. This was like unambiguously the best thing to happen surrounding the new Paramount deal is this, because one, shifting to a finish bonus. For years I have been like, what they should do is stop giving performance bonuses and give finish bonuses. That's the best way to incentivize this sport to be more exciting, because I was limited and was like, there's just no way they're going to add more money and then still do performance bonuses too. And shows what I know, this new deal, they were like, fine, we can do it. Unambiguously good. I think it's weird that 25 is the finish bonus, because that's like, especially at the high end level of the sport, like when you are the championship level fighters, that's a pretty insignificant amount to like pursue a finish, right? Like nobody in a championship fight is going to try harder for 25 grand. The finishes will be incidental, and theoretically this is an incentive bonus. And so I don't know why that wouldn't at least be 50, but dude, like Ty Miller got a performance bonus, got 100 grand. That's legitimately life-changing money for him, right? He can't retire forever, but that's, Ty Miller, I assume, was on a 10-10, 12-12 contract. and he got paid his show and win money. And now he got $100,000 taxes and fees come out, but maybe that's the difference between him being a professional fighter and a fighter who still goes and works at the post office or whatever. So unambiguous win for them. I think it's long overdue and it should be for more, but I'm happy about it.
Long Island is saying it's not for submission. My understanding is it's any finish.
No, sorry, Luke, you misspoke earlier. You said Alex Perez got a submission win and he got
my bad.
I was
Sorry.
telling you.
Yes, no, of course you did not. Yes, I apologize. Indeed. Not much to say on this. Dominic Cruz entering the UFC Hall of Fame. Again, I'm not sure what there is to say other than an easy call about a guy who clearly one of the higher achievers in the sport. No issue there, I'm sure.
I have one thought because there's nobody could argue with it. I do kind of wish the UFC would have maybe not like the NFL, it's like a 5-year waiting period. I do think it might be better if there was a little bit of a waiting period as opposed to
I thought about that.
He retired last year. Let's put him in the hall. Because one, you also get fighters unretiring. I don't think that's going to happen with Dom. Dom's pretty done. But like it might be nicer. Like last year when Mark Kerr got inducted, it was like, oh shit, man, Mark Kerr. Like it was this kind of fun thing. Like, oh, I hadn't thought about his career. I know the Smashing Machine was happening and stuff, but like it felt more celebratory because it had been some time as opposed to, oh, you're obviously going in and you're retired. Let's wash you through.
Fair enough. I'd be okay with a bit of a waiting time as well, which is again how traditional Hall of Fames do it. But he was going to go in sooner or later.
Again, that's a nitpick. It's totally
nitpick.
Reasonable.
And then last but not least, here's kind of interesting. People are complaining about the pacing at UFC 324, which fair. Even the UFC's own Craig Borsari, I think, was tweeting being like, okay, this is a little bit of a special example. It won't necessarily be this way going forward. But what was interesting was if you watch Zuffa Boxing, the pacing was immediate. I mean, their pacing was fantastic. Now, it was nothing but decisions.
It was the only good thing about that broadcast.
Yes. How do you feel about Zuffa Boxing 1? What did you take away from that?
This is not a bit. I fell asleep. I was on my couch and I put it on to see. And my immediate reaction was, these are Apex boxing matches, because that's what it was. Like it felt like you put a UFC patina over club level boxing bouts. And I fell asleep and I woke up to Callum Walsh getting knocked down and winning. And so like, it's fine. But if you are not a boxing fan, like if you are a UFC fan or a fight fan, I don't know that this has major appeal. At least that first
it has
one
nothing
didn't.
for you. People were checking. MMA fans were checking it out. They're not going to last.
No. They're not. And here's how you know it's bad. Dana was critical, like of the first one. He was just like, that wasn't our best stuff. It was like, yeah, and maybe it'll get better. Boxing is certainly boxing as we know it is much more star driven than the UFC has become over the years. And it looks like they got Jai Opetaia. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's big names, so that'll be more interesting. But like this was sort of the worst possible of like, oh, here are all the things that might be bad if the UFC gets involved here. It's just more of the same, and it very much felt like that. To say nothing of Max Kellerman, who, hey man, I will sell out for the right price too. Good Lord, that was embarrassing.
It's insane.
I've been waiting for this moment all my life, Luke. Zuffa Boxing has not been an idea for more than like 5 years.
I know.
What are we talking about, Max?
And the part to me that just drives me nuts about him, and we can move on. I'm not gonna. I've said
he
plenty
used
on
to
Max
be awesome
Kellerman at this point, but it's like the thing that drives me nuts is he wants to always talk about how it's better to have like a governing central, not body per se, but a promoter who occupies a central role as like, with the NFL, a rough equivalent of what the NFL means for football or, NBA for basketball. And it's like, fine. I'm not even opposed to the idea that there can be a way in which that can be a good system, although also not a guarantee. But what he never, ever, ever addresses, of course, are the fact that the system that they're trying to import from MMA leads to a downstream system of, what you want to call it, exploitation, abuse in the workplace, or in terms of wages and how money is distributed, and that this has yielded class action lawsuits and, generational consternation. And he just utterly ignores it. And it just constantly harps on the one part that, yes, there could be, again, not even a guarantee, there could be some benefit from it. It just drives me nuts. But I've said enough on him, so whatever, I guess he's got bills to pay. I don't know.
Hey,
all right.
I'm not knocking that. I'm sure that check is good, but my biggest thought was like, man, that check must be real good. He's laying it on. He is laying it on thick.
He just won't stop. All right, that is our top 5. But now it is time for all of you to ask us questions. It's time for DMs from Donks. And the donkey has ejaculated. All right, so this is how it works on Sundays.
Right.
We ask you guys on IG for your questions. You can do that at Morning Combat on Instagram. Let's go first to our friend at, put it up on the screen here. I want to read it this way. From MMA fan Belfast. I would love to go to Belfast. First, Jose Aldo, and now Justin Gaethje. How or why do such unbelievable leg kickers turn into headhunters? For me, Jed, he wanted to be in boxing range more, and I know he can kick at close range, but to me, this was purposeful about being inside of punching range and then denying the kind of space where Paddy can also do that kind of a work. More broadly is a different conversation, but in this particular fight, I understand it actually.
Yeah, this like people on Fight Night were very into this, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me that he wouldn't do this. One, like, I know that kicking is a very good weapon, and he started to do that in the later rounds a little bit, but mainly it was Paddy can kick with me, and I don't want to do that. Also, if I kick him, the likelihood of me getting taken down it goes up, and that's how I'm going to lose this fight. So this was a strategic thing of not going to, as the fight wore on, it became very evident Paddy wasn't getting him down. He started to open up the kicks a little more, maybe not as much as you want, but also like, I don't know about the whole headhunting thing. I would much prefer to see him throw to the body a lot more, because I've always thought he just doesn't do that nearly enough, especially how the rest of his game works. It'd be huge, but like, it's not like he was headhunting and missing. he kept headhunting and killing him. So keep doing it. But then you go back and look at the stats, like against Fiziev, he didn't throw that many. Against Max, he threw like 40 or something. Like this is not a Jose Aldo full-blown, one of my best weapons is just something I no longer use, which was always a little weird for Aldo. Like, I think this was just a strategic decision for this matchup.
From Brantendo64, he says, is the last generation of the lightweight division the most stubborn old guard in UFC history? That's a good question. I feel like they've only lost to each other or potential goats. John Jones decimated 205, and it's never been the same since. Heavyweight, they kind of aged out. I'm trying to think who was stubborn on their way out the door. This is one of the biggest examples of them.
So I agree with the premise, the heart of this question, because yes, like they're good. But again, look at the women's bantamweight top 15. It's been the same for 15 years. Like that old guard is hanging around, but that's more a reflection of how bad the division is. Lightweight still rips. These guys are just incredible all-timers.
From Fitman Eats, thoughts on the canceled bout due to the investigation? We kind of covered this one. I'll just say this. I didn't say this during when we were talking about it. I'm not saying that the UFC couldn't have been more proactive about early in the week kind of flagging that this might have been an issue and they had probably had some indication that there was an injury. However, what I'm going to say is if a betting firm goes to them and says, we have suspicious betting, and then they pull the fight, that is a good thing. And that is the correct decision. And they made the correct decision.
Yeah, 100%. This was like, this is how it should work optimally, because I don't know how much they knew that an injury was possible, right? Like they do medicals, but fighters lie on medicals all the time. Michael Bisping famously pretended he had working eyeballs and would still fight through. So like maybe they just straight up didn't know. But in a very purely hypothetical scenario, I am interested in like the downstream effects of the UFC just canceling bouts based on hearsay and or line movement, because like what does that look like? Luke, let me ask you this. It's easy and correct to pull this fight. 100% agree. What if that line movement was in the main event? Would they have done the same thing for the marquee bout as opposed to random prelim bout?
I don't know. Probably the answer is probably not. However, to their credit's the wrong word, and it's not even a benefit per se, but the way in which whoever's getting these fighters to throw fights, and again, people can use their imagination, they're picking on a certain class of fighter. You know what I mean?
Dude,
that's been
the case through the history of throwing fights. But like, I wish somebody had asked Dana when he said this, because like we said, fully agree with the choice. But I wonder where the line is on which fights they would do and not do. If Sean O'Malley Song Yadong had it, that's not the main event. Maybe they would have pulled it if suddenly, the line moved 200 points there. It is, I think that this is broadly the correct decision. I'm interested in basically what it means that betting patterns can dictate whether a fight happens or not now.
All right, let's move to the next one from Flannels and Jits. After seeing the first show, what are your expectations for what the Paramount era will be for the UFC? I wouldn't read too much into the first event, to be honest with you. Not yet, anyway. I think a pattern has to emerge before everyone can just be ready for what it all means.
I think I learned nothing from this that I didn't already know. It's going to be the same. The UFC has not grown to what they are because they are a amorphous shifting entity. They have staked their claim. They are what they are. They brought much of their production team over to CBS. There might be some new things, a bell and whistle here or there, but this is going to be the same UFC you've been watching, just at a different price point in America.
Last but not least, from MJ Silverfang, will you guys make Jed actually shower and brush his teeth for the next pregame preview? Jed?
I did shower. I'm showered right now.
Do you brush those fangs?
Look, we don't need to talk about my dental hygiene, but I did shower. I showered last time.
I have brushed my teeth, but I have not showered. So I look.
You look like that.
Great. I look fantastic. And Long Island Luke, I'm sorry to do this. I need one more time. There are children running in and out of my house, and I need to go see if I need to call the cops very quickly. Is that okay?
Right, children. You added another.
For folks who don't know, it's a fucking snow day, and I have neighborhood kids everywhere. And then you guys have one of those things where when the door opens, there's like not an alarm, but it's like front door open.
Yeah.
And all I hear when Jed's talking, all I hear is front door open, back door open, front door open, back door open. I'm like,
ooh, back door open.
All right, I'll be right back.
Go check on it. I'll put Jed full.
Love it when the back door's open.
Yeah.
Long Island Luke, what's going on, man?
Nothing. We do have one more segment, Jed.
I know.
I can't put us both on screen right now, which is unfortunate because LT's pulling this on me. But either way, it is higher or lower, guys. We did do it last Friday with Oscar, or two Fridays ago. Excuse me.
You did 2 Fridays.
We did not
last Friday I was there.
Yeah, so half of them are silly, half of them are combat sports related. Most of them are combat sports related. All of them, dare I say, are combat sports related. But either way, should be fun. LT looks like he's back.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
Cool. Of course.
Was your back door open?
Both of them. Fucking both of them. It's 5 degrees in my living room right now. This is amazing.
I mean, sounds comfortable.
All right.
LT, very inviting. What a very inviting home you have. Come on in.
LT, we're playing higher or lower again. So
okay.
Here it is, higher or lower. All right, LT, you're up first, but obviously, Jed, feel free to chime in as well. Sean O'Malley obviously might be next for Petr Yan, but he said he's willing to wait for the Yan Merab trilogy to play out. So, higher or lower than 1.5, the amount of fights Sean O'Malley will have for the remainder of 2026.
I'll take the under 1.
Yeah, he's gonna have 1.
And who's it going to be against?
I'm saying Umar because I believe. Look, I didn't really in my heart think Justin Gaethje was going to beat Paddy Pimblett, but I just kept saying he would do it. I'm very in on the secret and speaking truth to power. So let's go for Umar. Let's make it happen.
All right, but see, I feel like if he fights Umar, win or lose, he's probably going to fight again in 2026.
Nah, because he's not going to fight Umar until like the summer, and then he'll just be out for a while. Because then he'll be either waiting for a title fight or contemplating his career future.
All right, Jed, this one's for you. We obviously know you're a big fan of the Georgia Bulldogs. We know everyone. You bark when you're a Georgia Bull. Bark. Go Dogs. Yeah.
Bark.
We also know John Silva's a big fan of barking. So higher or lower than 3.5, the amount of times you barked along with John Silva during fight week.
0. I love Jean Silva a whole lot, except for his gimmicks are the gimmick of surfing on a dude. A+. We love that the most. That he communicates exclusively through barking it's a bit tedious at this point in time.
All right.
He's got why are his nipples the size of pencil erasers? I mean, they're very, very tilting to me.
I gotta tell you, I have not spent a lot of time dissecting the nipples of Jean Silva. You and I watch fights in a different way, my friend.
Yeah, a little weird.
Yeah, well, I got a big ass screen right in front of me, and my man's out there cutting glass with those things, and I was like, "That's a lot. I don't need to see all that."
Is men's featherweight Luke's BC's strawweight? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, he's like, they have the best nipples in that division.
Those are some pretty sick areolas on Jean Silva.
Okay, I didn't say that. I just said those things stuck out and it was annoying. All right, let's calm your tits. How about that? Do that.
LT. Right. Dana obviously admitted, we talked about it, that the Johnson Hernandez fight was canceled after receiving a call from the Gaming Integrity Service. We know that they also reached out for the Bulgarian Del Valle fight last year, but that was really the first time we've ever heard of them being in the spotlight, reaching out to the UFC. It makes me think of how many times they've reached out and the UFC just brushed it under the rug. So my question to you is, higher or lower than 4.5, the amount of calls Dana has gotten from the Gaming Integrity Service in the last 10 years?
Take the over on that one.
Yeah, okay.
Take the over on that one hard.
All right, so what are you thinking? What would have been a better higher or lower? Like what should
10.
I set the line at? 10?
Double that. Yes.
I think at least once a year.
In the last 10 years, at least once a year, yes.
Yeah. All right. Jed, you're in agreement?
Or at least on average. I mean, because obviously, game or, but daily fantasy and then turning that into, more recreational gambling is relatively new. So,
true.
But on average, it would be higher than that.
Yeah. All right. Jed, this one's for you. Derek Lewis obviously didn't look great on Saturday, but heavyweight is so bad that I still think at 40 years old, he is a viable resource. So, my question to you, you can pull up the rankings if you need to, higher or lower than 7.5, the amount of top 15 heavyweights you would favor Derek Lewis to win over?
I mean, a top 15. So basically, can he beat more than half of the current ranked heavyweights?
Yes.
I'm going to reflexively say I would favor him fewer, but let's go through it real fast.
Yeah.
I assume we're counting Tom Aspinall as a champion. No. Cyril Gane, no. Volkov, no. Pavlovich, no. Blades, no. WCA, no. Almeida, no. I mean, he has lost to all of these teams at this point. So that's 7 right there. 7 straight no's.
Yeah, but look at this back half.
I mean, he can't count himself. Spivak, no. Delia, I mean, no, not off that last performance. Tybura, no. Looking at this,
Tybura, no.
I wouldn't fit. That's the thing. He could beat them. Like once we get past Spivak, it's like he could beat these people.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I still wouldn't favor him against Delia, Tybura, Gaethje. I know he lost to Tai Tuivasa, but like they kind of should just fight again because they're both in shambles.
Yeah.
Big part. Like I'd under by a mile.
All right. I would have thought that was a good line.
I would favor him against Taliesin Teixeira because he just beat him.
Yeah. All right. LT, we know you didn't want to see Dead & Co. at the Sphere with BC, but
I would rather get fucked to death by an 8-dicked walrus. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But you did that. So that means you want to get fucked.
That's a very specific.
No, that's not what that means. That means that given the choice, I had a debt to pay. Remember, I lost a bet. I had to go do it.
All right. Well, either way, I'm going to assume when you go see a band you actually like that you probably have some gummies in your tummy. So
sure.
My question to you was, at the Sphere specifically, higher or lower than 99.5 milligrams, the amount of Delta 8s you ate before Dead & Co. at the Sphere?
Oh, brother. I mean, you ever seen those cartoons when they're at the fair and they take the hammer and then they hit the thing and then it shoots up and it dings at the top?
Yeah.
Buddy, you could do that 100 times in a row. Take the motherfucking over on this one.
What are we talking? What are we talking? How many hundreds?
I mean, I think I started at 100 before we even got there.
All right. Well, that's what I meant. Like before you got
there. No, but like
we were there.
So the way it worked was we got there early, and they had tickets for us because obviously BC was friends with one of the guys who was in the band, and then we hung out with them, kind of not backstage, but like in a private area. And then there was even more to indulge at that point. So by the time the fight started, or not the fights, I'm sorry, the concert started,
zooted.
How were Dead and Company's nipples? Do you have any?
See, it was
any
John
prolonged
Mayer and
thoughts
some
about
old
them?
guys, and they were clothed. What I will tell you is, bro, have you ever been to so you're from Georgia? You ever been to like a Widespread Panic concert?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not happy about that, but yes.
It's like what do white guys who are in middle age, who are not into gospel but like to just sway when they stand, when they're listening to
Dude, the
music,
sway's
what
a
do
good
they
move.
do? They go to shows like this one. That's what
the
they
sway's
do.
a good move. Like you're rocking along.
It looked like people were like putting their hands up like this. It looked like gospel, just no religion whatsoever. It was interesting.
Look, everyone has their own different kinds of religion. So,
and I was like, where are you pussies gonna mosh pit? Get the fuck out my way. You know what I'm saying?
And then they started rowing. Jed, John Silva
I want to see fucking Luke Thomas pushing 50 moshing still.
No, I'm too old for that shit. But I do. I've told the story before. This is not a joke. The last time I saw Cannibal Corpse, this is really true. I saw them at the Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland, and there was a girl down there in the middle of this mosh pit, and dude, I'm straight up just knuckling up with everyone. I'm not talking, flailing. No, balling up the fist and just socking dudes in the face with it. And then I saw her get swallowed by the pit, and then I never saw her the rest of the time we were there. So I don't know what kind of rules of the jungle that they allow at these shows, but it was a little concerning.
They sacrificed her later that night.
They probably did.
Jed, this one's for you. John Silva probably has a legit argument for getting the next title shot, right? Especially if they book Murphy Evloev, which is rumored to be happening in March. Nothing official. But without that fight taking place, they may still give it to him either way because it's John Silva, he's marketable, whatever. So my question to you, higher or lower than 0.5, the amount of fights John Silva will need to take before getting a title shot?
This is a good line. I'm taking the over. I think depending on how Volk Lopez goes, what Volk does with his career after that, and injury situation, John Silva could get there. I think it is unlikely. I think it's more likely he has to fight one more time, and he'll do it, and then he'll fight for the belt after that. So I'm taking the over.
LT?
I'll take the over. I'll take the over because especially if Volk loses and there's any kind of controversy about it, I don't think they're just going to slot in Silva. Yeah. No.
All right. But I feel like, all right, you guys might be right. I was going to say win or lose. I feel like they're just going to give John Silva the title shot. I could see it.
I mean, I do think that is definitely a thing that you need to consider. Like
it is definitely in play if Volk beats Lopez next week.
The line you're setting is the right one. I'll put it that way.
There's also a timing issue because if they do, I said do. And I said do. I get it. If they do end up going with Mavsar versus Murphy, the winner of that is very clearly going to be the next guy, unless the timing does not work out at all. But that fight won't be in 6 weeks or whatever. It's not like that timing is that bad. So
true. LT, back to you. Ilya said recently that he's willing to come back in April, though obviously nothing is official. And with Justin winning the interim belt, maybe that increases the likelihood of that fight being at the White House, considering Justin is an American. So my question to you is higher or lower than 5.5, the amount of months before we see Ilya versus Justin Gaethje? This would put us at like mid-June. Or no, I guess it would put us...
Yeah, it would, mid-June, because it's basically 6 months, a little less than 6 months.
But it's also basically... Oh, yeah, mid-June. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take the over. Maybe barely, but I'll take the over. I think that...
You don't think it's happening at the White House?
Well, I think it is happening at the White House. So how do I answer this
question?
Let's
just say under for the White House, because that's like...
Okay. So if under
the line is the White House card. It's happening before after the White House.
Yeah, you should have put in 5 or something,
Whatever. I mean, is it happening on the White House or after the White House?
My view is it happens at the White House, yes.
Okay. Jed?
I'll take the over. I think I'm probably wrong, but I don't know. I'm not entirely confident Ilya is going to come back as quickly as he's maybe talked about. He's got some stuff going on in his life, and he might just wait a little bit.
I'm with you. I think that Ilya's taking longer than we realize right now, and this fight isn't happening anytime soon. But Jed, a lot of fans were unhappy with the amount of ads. Obviously, we talked about it. Dana replying by saying it's only $8.99. What do you expect? So whether it's from annoyed fans wanting less ads or from Dana himself or the company themselves deciding they need more money per customer, a price increase is obviously inevitable. So higher or lower than 89.5 days, the amount of days before the next price increase on Paramount Plus.
Higher. I mean, they just knocked up their prices, like at the start of this year. One will come. It'll just come at the start of next year.
Yeah, they'll do the annual. Oh, we're gonna bump this up to blah blah blah.
All right. Did ESPN? I feel like they do mid-year bumps all the time. Do they not?
They did. They did. But remember, they started at $4.99. Like we're already at $8.99 and then $13.99.
Right,
Also,
but we're at
ESPN's
$8.99 for free pay-per-views. So I feel like
the difference is ESPN's bumps. To my recollection, their bumps were always pay-per-view price point bumps, as opposed to like our sub fee bump.
That's a good point.
And it's like Netflix. Like Netflix does it. I used to pay $8 or whatever. Now I pay $26 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it usually comes as an annual email, like the one I got from Paramount, being like, your price is going up.
True.
And so I assume that it will happen. It will happen in December.
All right. LT, during your live chat on Thursday and during MK on Friday, you showed everyone you were drinking sugar-free A&W root beer.
Yes.
Obviously, you must have got a 12-pack of it recently or something. So my question to you is, higher or lower than 5.5, the amount of sugar-free A&W root beers you've drank in the last 3 days?
I might have had all 12 in the last 3 days.
All right, this is what I was curious of. Do you drink multiple in a day? Because you just kept pulling out.
Typically one a day, but like when fights get closer, it's 2 and sometimes 3. Yeah.
Damn. All right. Jed, you a soda guy at all?
I like soda. I don't like sugarless, flavorless motherfuckers.
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. Non-nutritive sweeteners are so much better than they used to be.
I can confidently say I have never tried it, so it is possible that.
Have you had the Mountain Dew Zero Sugar?
No, I haven't. I gotta tell you, I don't know the last time I had a Mountain Dew in general.
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar is tremendo.
I used to drink Mountain Dew because it had high caffeine, and then everyone just started making fucking energy drinks, so I don't need that anymore.
Do you know Mountain Dew, I think, is banned in the UK? Oh, no, it's not banned, but it's labeled as an energy drink in the UK because of its caffeine content.
Yeah, that tracks. That shit was like Surge, only still around. So
I'm a big Jolt guy.
Oh man, fucking Jolt! I haven't thought of Jolt in years.
I couldn't believe this. I found this out. Colombia's got a soda called Roman Cola with a K. It predates Coca-Cola. It was founded earlier than them, which I was shocked to hear.
Delidze on the bottle, Roman Cola.
Roman. I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. No.
How do we think that pairs with rum? I mean, it's good.
Oh, it's true.
A rum and cola.
It's pretty good. Ooh. It's pretty good. I'll say that. Yes.
All right. Jed, Gaethje has said one more KO loss and he's done. Trevor Whitman has said one more loss and he's done. Ilya fight obviously should be next, but there is a world Justin wins. There's also a world Ilya stays on the sidelines for however long and Justin fights someone else. And there's also a world that even with a loss, Justin continues fighting. So my question to you is, higher or lower than 1.5, the amount of fights Justin Gaethje will have for the remainder of his career?
Over. I think he's talked about it. I don't think we have that many. Assuming he loses to Ilya, I think he'll think about it and then he'll want a couple of things because he's spoken pretty open. Like he wants another crack at Max and the BMF belt. And we hadn't talked about it at all today, but I don't know if you guys saw this last night. Old Dustin Poirier out here commenting, posting, saying, I'd come back to fight Justin Gaethje one more time. And so like, that feels like the perfect end of his career, right? He loses to Ilya, he fights Max one more, however that goes, and then ends his career with the trilogy bout with Poirier. Sign me up for that shit.
I think if Toporia's next and Topuria ices him, like puts him out cold, I think that might be the end.
That's like good over under.
I understand I do think it's a good over under. I understand your point, Luke. I'll just say this is MMA. Who actually retires in this sport?
True. And Justin, he got the face plant KO against Max and acts like that never. He's like, if I get knocked out bad, I'm done. It's like you've already been knocked out bad, So.
to his defense, his original
bad
thesis
knockouts
was
or something.
always, I've got 5 wars left in me, and he's now had 3 of them. So he's still got 2 left in the chamber, 2 wars and or bad losses.
LT, this one's for you. You once said you watched Volkanovski Holloway 2 49 times.
Yes, famously.
And while the other 2 fights
How were their nipples?
weren't nearly as controversial.
You guys are dumb. I want you both to know that.
The other 2 fights, Luke, weren't nearly as controversial, but you often neglect to mention how many times you've watched them. So, higher or lower than 9.5, the amount of times combined that you've watched Volkanovski Holloway 1 and 3.
No, it'd be the over. Because I watched the first one a lot, and I know I watched the third one because of how one-sided it was at least 6 or 7 times. So between those two, it's got to be over 10.
If you're not doing tape study, how often do you rewatch a fight? Like, what's an average, your everyday, let's say like John Silva, Arnold Allen, how many times are you going to watch that back?
Only for tape study purposes at this point.
All right, so you're all right, gotcha.
Like if there's, I'll rewatch classic bouts or fun bouts, or I'll go down memory lane. But it's not really it's just a question of how much time I have, and because my time is like, dude, I've got kids running through my goddamn living room, leaving the fridge door open. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't have time to be like, oh, what fun little adventure am I going to go down today? Yeah. It's like, okay, I've got to do tape study for X, Y, and Z. I'm going to focus on that.
I did do the math on you watching Volkanovski Holloway 2 49 times, and it came out to roughly 23 hours, I believe.
So not quite. So like
almost a full day.
No. As I explained at the time, that's not totally right. I counted each time I fired up another like tape session. So I may not have watched in a full tape session the entire 5 rounds. I may have watched rounds 2 and 3, or I may have watched just the championship rounds. You know what I mean? So, so it's an amalgamation of shorter stints than that.
All right. Jed, last one for you. John Silva, obviously he rode the back of Arnold Allen. We all thought it was funny, like he was a damn surfboard in the waning seconds of their bout on Saturday. It got me thinking, has Jed ever surfed before? So higher or lower than 3.5, the amount of time in seconds you could surf a small wave.
I couldn't smurf shit. A small wave, I can get up. I mean, I grew up on the coast. There's not like a lot of great surfing in Savannah. But like I grew up on the coast. I did a lot of bodyboarding, much boogie boarding, because the waves are just not big enough.
We're not counting that though. We're talking.
Yeah, but like I have and am capable. I mean, I haven't done it in years. I assume I am still have the baseline level of coordination to surf a small wave for more than 3.5 seconds, but I'm not like dropping in a pipe.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think so. That's why I put the over under 3.5. LT,
you can put my big ass on the under.
Yeah, trust that. I figured you were uncoordinated like that. No offense. But anyways, guys, that was higher.
I could surf a human far less though. Like I couldn't do what John Silva did, which was cool.
Dude, I put on my Instagram story, someone made like an AI thing where he starts riding Arnold Allen and it turns into a skateboard. He's at like a skate park.
Yeah,
it's so good. So fucking good. But that was higher or lower, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I did. All right. Very good. Which now, I think that's it. That brings us to the end of the show. Well done. Jed, I saw your article. It is up on MMAfighting.com. Why don't you plug your work?
Dope. Yeah, MMAfighting.com. It's a great website. We have a after action report for UFC 324. You can get more thoughts on mine there and or other people at the thing. I don't know if you guys know this. There's a pay-per-view this weekend.
Are you guys sending anybody?
No, because it's in Australia, we
who cares?
made
the
decision not to, which also super worked out because normally it'd be Jose. Jose, like Chuck, stranded right now. So maybe it would actually be fine because maybe he'd just fly directly to Australia instead of trying to fly back. But no one going to be boots on the ground for this one, but we're going to do the same stuff. We will have Between the Links on Thursday. At some point, me and Chuck Mendenhall got to get it on Prop Quiz Long Island, since Luke Thomas is a coward and refuses to face me.
Yes, I am indeed a coward.
LT, you're coming around. Well, as soon as we sign off, I'm convincing you. We're doing it this week.
If you start opening up the topics to things that, I've studied in great detail, then yes.
Deal. Done. That's it. We're done. We're doing it.
So if all of the topics are just the Max Holloway Volk 2, we're good.
No. No, so I did the very first episode, and it was things like there was a little bit like a bit of a DC trivia or history trivia, and I smoked all of that. It was like, what was the 17th significant strike thrown by Ode Osborne in his Contender Series round 3 performance? Like, how the fuck should I know? I don't pay attention to that level of it.
It's come a long way, Luke. We're 25. This will be the 25th episode. You know, I've gotten a lot better at making the questions and shit. So yeah, thank you.
All right, very good. So go to MMAfighting.com. As a reminder, morningcombat.shop. Morningcombat.shop. Got about a week left on these, boys and girls. The posters are sold out. Apologize for that. But the shirts are still available. The Stranger Danger shirts. And you can get those until January 31st at 11:59 p.m. East Coast time. We are available on socials. I think you saw them a minute ago. We'll put them up one more time for Morning Combat, as well as me and Jed Meshew. And that's it. So Chuck sends his regards that he couldn't make it, but I think he'll be back. Well, he's still not home. I don't know when he's going to get home, but hopefully he'll be home soon, and we'll get him on air either this Friday or the following Monday. But Jed, thank you so much for filling in. We really appreciate it. Great job today. And stay tuned to MMAfighting.com for more of Jed's work. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. So for Long Island Luke, that's Jed Meshew. I'm Luke Thomas. We'll see you next time. And until then, may all of your gains be loyal.